Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Six Screens. Wow, what a great night we have. We just heard from Fran and Joe, and what a wonderful couple they are. Well, my name's Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston. And I have to tell you, we got a really good guest coming on tonight. You're going to really appreciate this man. I mean, he had, I think, one of the biggest challenges you could ever have in the Watchtower organization, the position that he was in. His name is John Viney, and John is coming us tonight from England. Now, John served as the chair, the head guy in Wales. He was on the Watchtower Hospital Liaison Committee. And John and his family, they were treated badly. And you'll hear him talk about that tonight. And John was in the Jehovah's Witnesses for nearly 55 years. And his wife stayed in the organization for 10 years after he left. But I'm so glad we have John coming on. And John also will be speaking at our Still Alive in 2025 convention. So let's say hello to John. Let's bring him right on right now. And let's add him to the stage. Hello, John.
Oh, hello, Rick and friends.
Yes.
Nice to be on.
Well, good to have you on here, John. We got a lot of people coming in already. I know it's late over there in England, but it's about midnight over there, a little after. But anyways, you really got my attention, John, when you came on Barbara Anderson's program about 6 months ago. And it was I have to tell you right now, it was one of the most listened to programs that she had. It got over 10,000 views. And the people really connected with you. They really just had a sense of, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. And we're so proud to have you on with us here tonight, John. So let's kind of go back to what I call the scene of the accident. John, when did you first become one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, I think you've been mentioning, Rick, about being an old timer. I'm afraid I would have to class myself as an old timer. I'm an old man anyway. But my mum and dad became Jehovah's Witnesses when I was 5. So that was back in 1957. I was born in 1952. So 1957. So it's all I've ever known. So from the age of 5 right up till about 17, 18 years ago. As I say, it was over about 55 years I was in. And my mum and dad, they were very loving parents. I'd have to say they were really good to us. But of course, you lived with all of the restrictions that the JWs put on families. And yes, like you've been saying, I wasn't going to be leaving school. I didn't really need an education. I certainly didn't need to go to college or to university, because what was the point of that? The system's going to be crashing. In fact, I wasn't going to be leaving school. So when I was 15, I left school at the earliest age legally you could, and became a pioneer. And as many of your listeners will know, that's a full-time preacher. So at 15, I became a pioneer and stayed on doing that for about 8 or 9 years. During that time, I met my wife. I moved to Wales from England, and we've been actually married 53 years now. So if you have to point to one good thing that happened to me as a Jehovah's Witness, I met my lovely wife, Mary, and had 3 lovely girls. But it hasn't been all plain sailing. I became a ministerial servant, and then I became an elder and gave talks at many of the assemblies, and had positions of teaching even at Bethel and with Bethelites. Came over to the United States, actually, and stayed at Brooklyn. Got to know a couple of the governing body members as friends, actually. So we were thrown into the truth and really believed it and lived it. one thing I had not said to anybody till just a couple of years ago was that I was sexually abused as a boy by a Jehovah's Witness. And I hadn't even told my family that until fairly recently. I just lived with it, thought that, it hadn't affected me that much. The big problem came when my oldest daughter, at around age 15 and 16, she too revealed that she had been sexually abused by an elder in our congregation. And I thought, just wow. So that means we're a 2-generation family of Jehovah's Witnesses that's been sexually abused. And they say we don't have a problem. In trying to get that sorted out with my daughter, that led to lots of confrontation within the congregation, with many people supporting the elder, saying that, oh, he wouldn't have never done that. She must be lying. And that led to like a split in the congregation. We were seen as a family that caused trouble. Eventually, my daughter went to the police, but unfortunately, before that, she left the Jehovah's Witnesses, or the Truth, as we call it. She got disfellowshipped at 16, as did my other middle daughter at about age 15, got disfellowshipped. So we found ourselves as parents asking our 2 young teenage girls to leave home because the rules, or our rules, of Jehovah's Witnesses, and they weren't following them. They got disfellowshipped, and so for around 10 years we had to shun our children. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. In fact, I couldn't really do it properly, but because they both were suffering with mental and emotional problems, because one of them being sexually abused, as a father, I was trying to help the girls because that's what I should be doing as a dad. But I also, as a Jehovah's Witness elder, I had to cut them off and shun them. So I was being pulled in 2 different directions. As a dad, you need to help your children because you love them. And as an elder, you've got to cut them off because you've got to set an example to others in the congregation. And that really was what done the damage to me. And I probably was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. But for 15 years, during that time, I was on the Hospital Liaison Committee. So I was chair of the one in Cardiff, and in fact started in Wales. So we had the whole of the country at the time. So the elders wanted to keep me on as an elder, even though I kept getting told off by elders because I've been seen with my daughters. So on the one hand, you're helping your daughters. If someone sees you helping, you get reported. But on the other hand, they wanted to keep me on because we were doing a really good job on the Hospital Liaison Committee. And I'll tell you how it came to a head finally. I mean, I'm skipping years of problems and difficulties here, but it came to a head when I had a meeting with the circuit overseer and the presiding overseer, who incidentally both don't have any children. And they said to me, look, John, why don't you just give up your daughters so you can stay an elder? And at that point, I had the most unique and interesting experience where I had one of these out of body experiences. Well, I now know it's like it's a pressure from stress. So I was up in the corner of the room looking down on the 2 of us, so that the circuit overseer and the presiding overseer were on the sofa, and I was on another chair, and I was looking down on the 3 of us, only for a couple of seconds. Then I came to, realized, where I was, and I thought, this is it. I am finished. So there was no shouting or screaming or arguing. I just stood up and shook their hands and said, I'm really sorry. I can't do this anymore. You won't be seeing me. Then I had the job of going home. But before I got home, I must tell you, when I got to the front door of this building where we were met, had just had that meeting, I jumped up and punched the air, and I had felt the most tremendous release of pressure that you could possibly find. And like a wave of happiness came over me, being able to be released from all of the years of this closed cult organization. So even though I had not had any crisis of faith, I was still a very, very good Jehovah's Witness right up to the end. I knew there was something very wrong. And that was really how it started. My demise was, I know there's something very, very wrong about this shunning. It cannot be a Christian act that they expect me as a dad to cast off my daughters in order to keep a position of elder. The problem then, I had to drive home, and I thought, how am I going to tell my wife, a very strong and ardent Jehovah's Witness, again, since the age of 5, she's the same age as me. But you know, remarkably, when I got home, Mary, my wife, when I just told her, she was so understanding. I think she knew that I was on the verge of a breakdown. So she just lived with it. We got on with it. She stayed a Jehovah's Witness for another 10 years. And I used to take her to the Kingdom Hall and pick her up and take her out to the field service on door-to-door work, until she too came to a realization. There was no badgering from me. There was no arguing from me. I never even used to push any, what we would now call apostate literature, her way. She actually got stumbled out herself by the way that we were treated as a family by the loving Jehovah's Witnesses. So they did the damage. So consequently, when I left, my 2 girls had left. Then my sister, who also has my niece, my sister's children were also sexually abused. So we found out that most of our family had been sexually abused. So my sister, who had been a very staunch Jehovah's Witness, gave it up and realized there was a problem. And so I'm very happy to say that 20 years on, everybody that I love and care about is out. Now, I know that that's not the happy condition that a lot of the viewers and listeners to your program are. So I'm very, very grateful that I'm in that position. But I can tell you, it's taken a long time and a lot of stress to get here. So I've made it my business to try to be professional in opposing Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, we know that not all Jehovah's Witnesses are bad people. We know that. There's some very, very good but disillusioned people. However, they do really have a problem with child sexual abuse. And an inordinate number of sexual cases per capita of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's a crazy number. We know from the Australian Royal Commission, we know from the work that's been done in London by the committee down there, the Charity Commission. So, but Jehovah's Witnesses just won't accept it. And I had another most unique experience about 5 years ago. It was when the Watchtower came out. I'll just give you the date. It was the 1st of May 2019. Watchtower came out. Up until that point, I had not done much activism, but that Watchtower came as close as it had ever done to acknowledge that some of the sexual abuse that's been taking place is being done by Jehovah's Witnesses. The paragraph there said that some professing to be Jehovah's Witnesses have been guilty of it. And that quite incensed me, I have to be honest. I thought, oh, right, so no Jehovah's Witnesses have ever sexually abused anyone, because as soon as they've sexually abused a child, they've just become a professed Jehovah's Witness. So elders, ministerial servants, pioneers that for years and years and years have been in the Watchtower organization are now only professed there. And that made me quite angry. I mean, if you just reason it out, if a Catholic priest abuses a child, and we know that they have had a problem, is the Catholic priest just a professed Catholic priest, or is he an active one? Well, of course he's an active one. If another clergyman or a leader in religion sexually abuses a child, are they just a professed leader? No, they are the appointed leader, but they've done something wrong. And so with Jehovah's Witnesses who are baptized and maybe have a position, they don't become just a professed Jehovah's Witness. They are a Jehovah's Witness, but they're committing crimes. And that incensed me so much that I actually went out and bought a movie camera, got a friend of mine who's very good at handling cameras, and went to the local convention, my own convention. I still actually don't know how I had the courage to do it even now, but you can actually see my you can see the results of my work on YouTube, where I go to the convention with that Watchtower, that May the 1st Watchtower 2019, and I've got it in my hand. And I go up to all of the Jehovah's Witnesses I can outside, including the people standing on the carts selling the Watchtower. And of course, no one would talk to me. But I was asking them, can you tell me the difference between a Jehovah's Witness and a professed Jehovah's Witness? Because you need to know. Because if it's Jehovah's Witnesses don't abuse and only professed ones do, how are you going to find out which are the professed ones? Of course, I was being making fun, really, but there it was in the paragraph. So since then, I've been very open and honest with other media. I was on a BBC program, a lady called Victoria Derbyshire, who's quite a well-known presenter here. And I went down to London and they were interviewing me about my daughter's abuse and how all that was handled. And I was sat on a park bench in Hyde Park, a very well-known park in London. And up until that point, I had never, ever revealed that I had been abused. And here I was sat on this park bench, encouraging many other people to come forward so that we can get the true picture of who's been abused. And then I said, well, I think I ought to, it's about time I came clean and said that I've also been abused. And that was quite a shock to the lady who was presenting. Her jaw dropped. And then I think I was headline on the news that morning. So I've done my best to try to raise the profile. Again, not being unkind, but being truthful that there is a lot wrong with the Jehovah's Witness organization, and they are just not handling these things correctly. I'll just tell you, if I may, I don't want to be rambling on, but I'll just tell you that my daughter, all she wanted was an apology. She didn't get an apology from either the abuser or the Watchtower organization. The reason why is because at the criminal court case, the Bethel sent 2 elders. So imagine that you have a criminal court case where the victims were obviously there, the abuser was there as an elder, and now there are 2 elders been assigned by the Watchtower Society to sit in the public gallery because they want to know what's gone on. And those 2 elders said to us in the public gallery, look, we're not on anyone's side, but we can tell you that the society are very interested in this case, and that afterward we've been told we must come round and see you to encourage you. And my daughter thought, wow, so there might be some loving people in this organization after all. And, you know, the strange thing is, as soon as the guilty verdict was announced, the two elders left. We never saw them again. We tried ringing them and saying, you know, when are you coming round? I even approached the circuit overseer, because the same circuit overseer had said to me, and this is directly to me, John, the society are very interested in your case. No stone will be left unturned until we get to the bottom of it. And those are the words of the circuit overseer. We waited nearly 9 months, and this is why still, while my wife was attending the meetings, and I drew up in my car one day to take her to the meeting, and the circuit overseer was there, and he parked in front of me. And I thought, right, now's the time to speak to him. And my wife said, please don't start an argument. I said, I'm not going to make an argument. I'm just going to ask him what's happened. He wouldn't get out of the car. He could see me waiting to speak to him. But eventually he had to get out of the car because he was due to give the public talk. So when he got out of the car, I got out of my car, went over to him, shook his hand, and I said to him, Michael, I know you've got to go and give the public talk, so I'm not going to keep you now. But 9 months ago, you told me that no stone would be left unturned to get to the bottom of this case. And I said, all the stones are still exactly in the same place. And you know what he said to me? He said, we were pulled, John. We were pulled. Meaning that the society had told him, as soon as that guilty verdict was announced in court, don't have anything more to do with it. So never mind the poor victim, the poor girl who was sexually abused. Never mind the victims, more worried about the reputation of the Jehovah's Witness organization. So it's telling publicly some of those stories that I think it's very, very important that they really are not the loving organization interested in the victims that they propose. The other interesting thing, if I may just tell you, that I think was quite shocking, was when my daughter was suing the Watchtower. Now, I should say that we in the UK, when we sue the Watchtower organization, don't get anything like the money that you do in the United States, whereas you're involved in millions of pounds court cases. Over here, it's just a few £1,000s. But nevertheless, my daughter sued the Watchtower because of that bad treatment. And it went on for about 2 or 3 years until right at the court steps, as they say, they capitulated and said, okay, we're going to settle out of court, but we need you to sign a disclaimer to say you won't talk about it. So exactly the same again, they can claim they're not doing anything and no one will know because they claim this confidentiality clause. But do you know the most disgusting thing that came out of that discussion? When my daughter's barrister, the lawyer, was negotiating with Watchtower's lawyers, the Watchtower lawyers said, look, we're not going to be paying you much because she didn't get a very good education, did she? She wouldn't get a very good job because she didn't really go to any further education. So their very belief system that told us not to go to college, not to go to university, we don't need a further education, they use that against you when they're settling, because they say, well, look, you wouldn't have got a very good job, so we're not paying you that much. I found that the most hypocritical part of the dealings that my daughter had. So that gives you a very brief overview. I've left years of stuff out. I'm wondering if there is anything particular that Rick, you want me to sort of go on to. I've tried to give you a bit of an overview of it. We've been to court several times. I've given evidence in court in London in the Royal Courts of Justice. The other shameful thing is the amount of lies that the Watchtower organization are prepared to tell to get themselves out of trouble. you may know another watchtower that I've used in my media work. I just want to make sure I give you the right one. It's I think it's September the 1st, 87, I think it is. That might not be right. I might need to check that. But it's to do with telling lies. It was a question from readers, and it said, is there ever a time when it's okay to tell lies? Basically, that's what the questions from readers were. And they go on to say, no, Jehovah hates a liar. You shouldn't really tell lies. And then there's this paragraph that says, however, and then this however paragraph gives some examples of how, as Jehovah's Witnesses, there might be a need to tell lies, such as if you're in front of judges or administrators or kings or governments or anyone that is perceived to be an enemy of God's organization, you can lie for God. And I can tell you, honestly, I've seen this in action. I've been in court when I've given evidence about certain things, about what it's like being a Jehovah's Witness. And I've had the Bethel spokesman from London give his evidence representing the Watchtower, and has absolutely told a pack of lies, so much so that the witnesses and the ex-witnesses that were in the public gallery, you could see them actually reacting to it, thinking, well, that doesn't seem to be right. So they will tell lies in order to get themselves out of problem. Let me give you an example, if I may. You just stop me, Rick, if I'm going on. But
in fact, that is what I'm thinking here, John. That is what they call watch strategy. That is part of a watchtower policy, or even built into their doctrine, I suppose, to some degree. They do use scriptures to back it up. How, Abraham had a lie about Sarah. They were related, but he kind of had to not tell the truth to the people he was being questioned by. And then we also had, who was it? I forget who it was, but was hiding the Israelite in her house. And
Rahab.
Yeah. Rahab, right. Thank you for that. Yeah, so it was Rahab was doing that. So they used those scriptures from the Old Testament, really, to support their war strategy. And what it is they feel that, a person isn't entitled to the truth if they're going to hinder the progress of God's kingdom. So we all know they lie, but John, I'll tell you what really got my attention. And boy, I'll tell you, quite the story to tell there, and we're so sad that that had to happen in your family and the difficulties you experienced. But what got my attention is the Watchtower Liaison Committee. Now, you were the head guy in all of Wales. Now, that is when I think of a tough job in the Watchtower organization, I really think in terms of being on the liaison committee. That is going to be a real challenge, and I'm wondering what that would be like. Now, you must have been put in positions where your conscience must have haunted you at times. How'd you handle that, John?
Well, it was quite a responsibility. The one thing I will always do, Rick, is to tell the truth. And when we oppose the Watchtower organization, we tell it as it is. We say the bad stuff that goes on, and we also acknowledge that it's not all bad. It's just the bad stuff we don't like. So when I was appointed as the Hospital Liaison Committee, I thought, first of all, it was a joke, because I'm not interested in the human body. I never even used to read the Awake articles about your wonderful body and all that. I really had no interest. And when I got the letter through in 1990, asking me to be a member of the Hospital Liaison Committee, I thought someone's having a joke here. But nevertheless, I went on the training, and then eventually got appointed to be the chair of the committee. I worked very, very hard because I saw it as actually like a life-saving work. We know why the Jehovah's Witnesses don't take blood, or the four major blood components, and so I saw the fact that if we could get doctors to become friends, if we can make friends with doctors who know how to do these operations without blood, then they could be ready to assist the brothers and sisters who are Jehovah's Witnesses and hopefully save lives. So we worked very, very hard at getting doctors, finding doctors that are proficient in using bloodless surgery and anesthesiology techniques. It was challenging. I know that some stories have gone around that hospital liaison committees would march into hospitals and demand that doctors leave, and I've got to be honest, we didn't do that, even though I was on it for 15 years. It was a challenging thing, and the main thing is we found that most Jehovah's Witnesses had no idea why they didn't want to have blood. They just knew that if they did have it, or major blood components, they would be in trouble. We had some difficulty with some doctors. Some just could not see our point of view as Jehovah's Witnesses. But on the whole, my experience on the Hospital Liaison Committee was a positive one. And that's why I'm being honest, because I don't want to be saying it's all bad. The other good thing that came from it, from my point of view, and that is, I remember giving a lecture, a lunchtime lecture, to a large audience, to a group of doctors in Wales, South Wales, and we invited the circuit overseer to come to hear it, to be in the audience. And during the lecture, we told them about the machines that can reuse a person's own blood. We called them cell saver machines. I think the correct pronunciation is something like intraoperative cell salvage. So they're machines that, if you're bleeding, suck up your blood, centrifuge it, clean it, and put it back in. And one of the anaesthetists shouted out, or rather put his hand up and asked the question, said, "Why don't you people buy those machines, donate them to the hospital, so that we've got something that can benefit you people?" And after we had that lecture, we had a coffee with the circuit overseer, and we thought, you know what? I wonder what the opportunities would be. What would be the chances of us raising money to donate to the hospitals? Well, to cut a long story short, we started the Cell Saver Committee, and Jehovah's Witnesses from all over the country eventually donated money privately from the Jehovah's Witnesses organization, and we were able to buy machines that got donated. So I only mention that because it was a positive thing. It was only positive because if those people were going to die by refusing blood, at least we helped them by having machines that would have reused their blood. So in some ways, I don't have any real horror stories, although I know that there are some stories around of elders marching in and demanding that doctors don't do this and don't do that. We didn't take that view. So I have a good conscience that in dealing with doctors and some of the poorest and sick Jehovah's Witnesses that we dealt with them in the right way, with love and respect. In fact, it was probably the best 15 years of my life in actually operating on a hospital liaison committee. So I hope that's not sort of disappointed people and hoping that I was going to be able to say, oh, they were terrible times. They were frustrating times, but I don't necessarily have any horror stories when it comes to being on the hospital liaison committee.
Well, that's interesting, John. I have to say this, people are, people writing in, they're asking questions on YouTube chat. I don't know if you can see that or not, but, some people are asking the good questions. Did you ever see one of Jehovah's Witnesses die because of refusing blood?
Yes, yeah, we did, we did have a couple of deaths. One particularly, I know in Swansea in South Wales, a lady, and she refused blood and she did die. The difficulty of that is you've got to deal with the media afterwards, and you've got to try and explain why this person chose death, if you like, over having blood. Nevertheless, you might not be surprised to know that the Watchtower organization did train us to be careful how we answer questions. And that's where I say that sometimes they tell lies, or as you've said, it's called a theocratic warfare. So if it's going to damage the organization, you can mislead or even lie. We were taught how to handle what's called "Do you still beat your wife?" questions. If I said, Rick, do you still beat your wife? And you say no. Oh, so you've stopped beating her. They've got you either way, a yes or a no. They've got you. So you have to be careful when you're asked questions, to make sure that you answer so that you don't leave the Watchtower organization in trouble.
Well, no, that's a good way that they would train people, because they have to train them on something. I mean, seriously, they gotta know, they gotta be able to say something, because most people that hear of a Jehovah's Witness dying because of refusing blood, they have no conceptual idea why this all happens. Now, what comes to mind here as I'm thinking, when you would go into a hospital, did most of the doctors show you any respect, or did they kind of listen to your concerns and work with you in a gentle manner? How did how did they view you, John?
Well, again, I do think that our method, and it may have only been our committee. I'm not saying that all committees and all elders were as kind and as thoughtful as I hope we are. It sounds like I'm sort of boasting here, but I can honestly say that we viewed the doctors not as the enemy. In fact, we used to say that to them. Look, you're the experts. We've come to ask for your help in dealing with this. However, and this is what we would do normally, here's a medical article that's been written by one of your colleagues on how he or she has done this operation without using blood. Would you mind reading this article so that if it comes up in the future, you'd be familiar with how to do it without using blood? So we would let them know they're the experts. And I'm sorry that I better just explain that I'm in a section of the hotel where the light's going out automatically. So don't panic if he looks like a ghost on the screen. I won't bother getting up and flashing it again now. It might come on if someone walks past. So sorry about that.
That's
Oh,
fine.
there we are.
There you go. That's fine, John. Oh, okay. So here's another thought I have. Obviously, even in families, now you have someone that's going to die. They're a loyal
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witness. They don't want blood. They make it very profoundly known to the doctors, the hospital, and everybody else. This person, they want to die. Now, in some cases, as family members that might not be loyal or even be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, did you ever run into an issue where other family members kind of argued with you or debated with you or even got into somewhat of an altercation with you? Because I could see that happening. Did you ever experience that?
Yeah, yes, we did, because we were often called and would be there first. So we would be talking to the doctor or the anesthesiologist or whoever was in charge. We would be trying to overcome the problem with blood. In other words, we weren't just there being to obstruct. We were trying to say, look, this is how some doctors have done it. This is what one doctor did, maybe in South Africa. This is how someone may have done it in a bloodless surgery program in America. So you're there trying to assist without taking over. That's how we handled it. I can tell you that's how we handled it. Because if you make an enemy of the doctor, you're not going to get anywhere. But that didn't mean that the relatives that were there didn't want us there. So if there was ever a situation where we felt that our presence was actually was harmful to the victim, to the poor person that's in the bed, we didn't stay there and demand that only this is done or that's done. We sometimes had to vacate the situation, or we could try and win over the relative if it was possible to do so. We obviously try to be very, very understanding of their viewpoint. We know that people love life and saw the challenge of refusing blood as almost choosing to die. We would try to explain to the relative that person doesn't want to die. They're not choosing death. They're just choosing not to have blood. But if there was another way of getting round it by using a blood substitute or a machine or something, we're there to try and help in that, in overcoming that. But it's yes, you can't deny it was a difficult time. I did feel I did the best I could, but because obviously I was in a different frame of mind then, Rick. And you know, when you're in the cult, when you're programmed as you are, basically they said jump, and I just said, how high do you want me to jump? And it's only when you step away from the organization that you can see it fully for what it is. Not all bad, but a lot bad. And
Well, you go. Well, that's a good way. That's a good way of saying it because I felt that way too at one time. They say jump, you say how high. Well, let me ask you this, John. Now, how
yeah,
about children? Now, children would be, I would think, the most difficult position that you could be put in. You have a child. Now, did you deal with any younger ones that were
yeah.
in a position of having to take blood? How was that all taking place?
Well, that was probably the most challenging because as an adult, even though it was very, very upsetting, an adult can decide what they want done with their body. So they can say, I don't want any blood. But with a youngster, the courts would never allow children to die. They would never allow that. So that's why most of the court cases that I attended were over the treatment of children. And you'd go to the family court. These sometimes were very last minute, where the doctors have asked for a hearing, and they would get a judgment where the child could be given blood because they would be made of what they called a ward of court. In other words, the judge or the court became the father and mother. And once that was the case, then the judge could order whatever. Sometimes, though, the judges would not always say, yes, you must give them blood, because sometimes the doctors would say, look, we're going to try not to. We are going to try not to. But if it comes to it and we need to know that we've got the authority to do it. So sometimes it didn't reach the situation where they had to give blood to a youngster, a baby, but they were at least prepared to. And so you really couldn't do much about that. As Hospital Liaison Committee members, we knew the courts would just literally take it out of our hands. They would give the authority to the doctors. And so, and obviously rightly so. Now we know rightly so, because it would be unfair for even a parent to decide that that child needs to die for a religious view that is very challenging.
Well, I know you now. I believe you serve at times as a magistrate, so you're really familiar with law. So what I'm thinking here is when a child would be taken away, as you say, and made a ward of the court. Now, would the parents be able to get that child back pretty
Yeah.
easy? So how does that work?
Yeah, because what would happen is the hospital or the doctors would be asking for what they call a specific issue order. So that was the name of the order from the court, a specific issue order, because no one was suggesting that the parents were bad parents. No one was suggesting that the parents are not feeding the child or clothing the child or taking care of the child. But in this one specific issue of blood or medical care, that's where the authority was given to the court. So under a specific issue order, the child could be attended by the doctors. Once that issue has passed, either because blood has been given or the child has become well without using blood, then that specific issue is gone, and the parents take over again the authority of the child. So it's only normally a specific issue order that has been made a ward that they've been made a ward of court.
Well, that's very good. Good answer. I got that. Now, here's another thought that comes up. Now, you being on the liaison committee, you had to have a pretty knowledgeable perspective on what fractions one of Jehovah's Witnesses could take. And I would be at least willing to say many Jehovah's Witnesses, including myself when I was one, I really wouldn't know what to tell them for fractions. So were you pretty much educated on what fractions a witness could take in view of not taking blood?
Yes, we obviously did have to learn about that. I mean, I've got to say honestly, Rick, you remember I told you that I never even used to read the Awake articles about the human body because it just wasn't something that interested me. So I'm not an academic, and it was the most frightening thing when I was appointed on the Hospital Liaison Committee. But yes, because of our monthly meetings, we used to have training as a committee, and we would also go down maybe to London for training. And we had to know what there was. The Watchtower Society would produce a lot of literature that we could use. It was all printed for us and as a list. This is what you could do, doctor. So the doctors would have a long list of different fractions, different anesthetic techniques, different machines, different drugs that would sort of clog up the bloods to stop bleeding. So we were given a lot of information from the Watchtower Society as that we could present to doctors. But I mentioned earlier, we in order to try and help Jehovah's Witnesses understand it, we as a committee decided we would go around the congregation. So on a Saturday evening, we would attend most of the congregations in South Wales for a special meeting, and we'd invite the congregation, and we would literally do like a training event. What would you accept? What wouldn't you accept? Because of these fractions. But as you know, even the fractions were a matter of conscience. So you had some witnesses saying, "I wouldn't have anything. I wouldn't have anything if it's been in the body." We used to have an illustration, and I don't know how helpful this is, but if the Bible had said, "Thou shalt not eat apple pie," then if someone offered you the apple, you'd say, "Oh, no, I couldn't eat the apple because that's part of the pie." Or if they said, "Why not have the top, the nice piece of pastry on the top?" you'd say, "Well, no, that's a major part of the apple." But what about if they said, "We've taken the cinnamon, we've been able to extract little pieces of cinnamon from that apple pie, would you accept that? Is that apple pie? Well, some would say, well, yeah, I think it's still come out of the apple pie. But some would say, well, no, I can see why that's it's not like the apple. It's not like the pie crust. So we would use illustrations like that for people to say, you really need to know what you think is blood, because it's going to be you making the decision and your life involved.
Well, that's a really, really good answer and a good illustration too. Now, I'd like to know your position now that you're out of the Jehovah's Witness Watchtower organization. Can you really see now that there really is no biblical understanding, biblical doctrine that supports the Watchtower's position on blood? How do you feel about that today, John?
If I'm honest, I think even when I was on the hospital liaison committee, I couldn't quite understand where they were getting it from. But because you're a Jehovah's Witness and you're baptized, and you believe that these men in Brooklyn, or it was Brooklyn then, because they're doing what you think God wants, you are obedient to the instructions that you're given. I think a lot of people struggle to see how you can extrapolate the blood issue from the scriptures that are in the Bible that would relate to blood transfusion. But in answer to your questions, Rick, of course, now you can step back. Now I can step back and look at some of the other beliefs as well, some of the other doctrines, and can see where there are weaknesses, or not just weaknesses, even complete errors. Then I can look at that blood issue and look and say that. But at the time, I believed it, I lived it, and still wanted to help people who, even though they were Jehovah's Witnesses, I was doing my best to sort of help them stay alive by providing alternatives to blood or alternative strategies.
Okay, very good. Now, one other question, then I'm going to open up the lines and we'll cut you loose so you can get to bed over there way over there in London. But anyway, but here is the thought that I had too. We often talk about the liaison committee, and I look at that as pretty tough position to be in, and we're glad you're on with us here tonight. Now, is that really, that's a pretty big wing of the Watchtower. Now, do they have, like you were the chairman for Wales, would they have like a chairman for England, or say a good part of the UK? Or, I wonder how they break that down. Is it like, I know, like a circuit overseer, they're over certain areas. So how does that work with the liaison committee? Is it like one head brother somewhere?
No, when it started in training in 1990, appointed to start in April 1991, we were referred to as the Cardiff Hospital Liaison Committee. Now, Cardiff is the capital of Wales. So as a committee, we looked after the whole of the country. Over the next 2 or 3 years, other hospital liaison committees were trained so that the area became slightly smaller. So we, in the end, just looked after South Wales. The Liverpool committee, although Liverpool is in England, it's right on the border of Wales in the north. So they looked after the northern part of Wales. In England, most of the major cities had hospital liaison committees. So I think there was something like 26 hospital liaison committees in the country in England, because you had quite a big area to cover. Not only that, but there was a lot of work involved as well in getting to meet doctors, writing to doctors, getting appointments so that you can meet them, asking if it's possible to come and give talks to groups of doctors and groups of nurses and groups of administrators. We really did put ourselves out. So the more hospital liaison committees that there were, the easier it was to cover the country. I think the thinking, as I was told, that the reason why they started was because Jehovah's Witnesses were always on the back foot. They were always having to describe, oh, so-and-so's died from not having blood. They're always chasing that argument. So we're going to take the fight to the doctors, and I don't mean fight in a nasty way, but we're going to preempt it, and we're going to go and find doctors that will do things without blood, who maybe are already doing things without blood. And the other thing you have to remember, Rick, is I don't know, I'm sure it was the case in the United States, but in the UK, we had the bad blood issues that were going around. In fact, they're still compensating right now. Our government is still having to compensate people for receiving blood that was contaminated. So in some ways, at the time that Jehovah's Witnesses were trying to get bloodless, the country and doctors were also trying to not use as much blood, because they knew that actually it wasn't as safe as it ought to be. So that actually helped. So we were making friends with doctors, showing them medical articles where other doctors had done certain things without using blood because it was safer, and also, believe it or not, many people recovered more quickly by not having blood. So perhaps I sound like I'm an advocate now for the Watchtower. I'm not, but there was a reason why at the time in the country blood was not doing very good on its own. So that helped the Jehovah's Witness argument.
Well, that's fascinating. So I could really see how, if one was on the Watchtower Liaison Committee, that they could kind of rationalize. They could say, we're trying to stop people from taking blood. A lot of it is contaminated right now. I mean, that's not the reason why the witnesses weren't taking it. But
No.
I could see how you could kind of weasel out of a conscientious thing. Well, in some respects, I'm helping these people. Well, John, this is interesting. So would you mind if we open up the lines and have some people ask us some questions?
That's fine. And while you do that, I'll get the light going.
Go ahead. There you go. He's in a hotel over there in London. And obviously, they're turning the lights off because it's past midnight. And we certainly appreciate John coming on with us. But let's open up the line. Let's open up the lines. I'll tell you what, we never had a hospital liaison committee member. Of course, he's not in it now, but we never had one of those here on the Six Screens. So here's your chance. You got a question for John. Don't be bashful. Did you lose a relative because of blood? Relative not taking blood? You must have some thoughts for John. So go ahead, hit *6. You're on with us. Go ahead. What would you like to say? All right, hold on.
Hello, John?
Yes.
Yes. I would like to know, you said that you were on the committee for 15 years. Is that correct?
Yes, 15 years, yes.
Okay. Was there a special reason why you quit or why they took you out of that position?
Well, yeah, the quitting of the Hospital Liaison Committee was completely because I quit Jehovah's Witnesses. I was a good elder, busy with the Hospital Liaison Committee, and I was well used by the Watchtower Society in training right up to the very point of me quitting Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know if you heard my explanation earlier of how I had realized I'd come to the end mentally with it because of the other things that had been happening in my life. So when I told the circuit overseer and the elder that I've had it, I'm not doing any more, I'm walking away, I walked away from everything. And so that included the Hospital Liaison Committee work. So it was because I walked away from Jehovah's Witnesses per se, not necessarily just giving up the Hospital Liaison Committee.
So it's not due to the stress of being in charge of that committee. It was your personal circumstances with your daughter and so forth.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch, Rick. I don't know if I just missed some of that. So.
Go ahead. Say it again, Susan.
So you quit. It wasn't the stress of being in charge of the committee. it was because of what was going on with your daughter and your personal circumstances that caused you. It had nothing to do with the hospital committee.
That's right. I suppose it's slightly unusual because a lot of people that leave Jehovah's Witnesses discover something maybe doctrinally that they don't like, or other reasons. I was absolutely fine with all the doctrine, with everything, right up to the very end. It was the way I was being treated and how I was expecting to treat my daughter that was the problem with me. So because of that, I just had to cut and run. So that's what I did.
How do you feel about blood now?
The question was, John, she wants to know how you feel about blood now. So
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. How I feel about blood now? I would take blood. I would still do my absolute best to avoid it. But that's because most doctors will do their best to avoid it. It's very, very difficult because I'm imagining that if you were part of a religion that, for instance, I'm just imagining if you maybe were Jewish or something like that and you couldn't eat pork, and for many, many, many years you didn't, and then you stopped that belief, would you suddenly be able to eat it? Or would you think, well, I'm not refraining now for any religious reasons, but I just don't actually want it now because for so long I've refused it. I may be in that camp, but because of my sort of expert knowledge, and I'm not claiming I'm an expert, but because of what I've done and who I've spoken to and what I've experienced with doctors, I know that they would do their best to avoid blood. So I would do my best to avoid blood. But if you're actually asking if my life depended on it, would I have it? I absolutely would.
Well, John, that's the answer. Hey, let's bring 602. 602, you're on with us. Go ahead, 602.
Hey, John and Ricky, they're doing a great show. This is Gilbert. Hey, John, I said a long time ago, I even did a video about it, that the Jehovah's Witnesses were lab rats of the New World Order. And we have a New World Translation. So tell me that I'm crazy. You can tell me, because I don't know and I have no proof. But the Jehovah's Witnesses are, in this, what you're describing with the blood fractions and all of the different types of treatment, there are numerous pharmaceutical companies who provide these services, and also medical companies. But because Watchtower is not transparent in its stock market holdings that everybody knows they have, like we all know that Watchtower has stocks in war-making companies like Raytheon and so forth. So my thing is, I believe that Watchtower is working with drug companies and also medical companies that separate these blood fractions. And it's in Watchtower's financial interest to keep this going because you need to have test studies. I'll give you an example. In the United States of America, ER doctors they need to get experience. Well, the best experience is in Detroit or Chicago with all the shootings. And they say that sometimes Chicago has more shootings than Afghanistan. And you have to wonder, why is that? Why does the government not put a stop to it? Because they need that experience. They need that money. That's some of the craziness that people are coming up with in these theories. But so do you think I'm crazy in saying that because Watchtower is not transparent? I believe that their policy on these blood fractions is because they have a financial vested interest. Do you think I'm crazy for believing that?
First of all, I have to apologize. It may be the speaker in my laptop is not very clear, so I'm missing a lot of what you're saying. But if I've heard you correctly, you seem to be suggesting that it's in Watchtower's interest because they've got financial standings in a lot of these medical provisions, and I think that is the case.
In order for you,
I know for a fact
Right.
that we used to go to conferences, in fact, pretty much all over the world, and I'm trying to think. NATA, the one that comes to mind is called NATA, the Network for the Advancement of Transfusion Alternatives, and it was an organization made up of lots of doctors, and it was held in the capital cities of most of the countries around the world every year. And I found out that NATA was being sponsored by Jehovah's Witnesses. So they would put these conferences together and they would invite these world's leading doctors that were doing stuff without blood. And often they would be sponsored also by machines. So outside the conference center, you'd have people selling stuff, drugs and machines. So I think they have not been backward in coming forward in trying to lead companies to produce stuff that would mean that they wouldn't use blood. I don't know if that answers your question, because I wasn't very sure because I couldn't hear properly, but I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I was just saying that, would I be crazy in saying that because Watchtower is not transparent with their
Right.
investment holding?
Then you're sorry. You would not be crazy. I think you are absolutely right to be suspicious. Now, I don't have any proof that that's the case, but I think you're not crazy in thinking that, because we know, because they're not transparent, that they maybe have fingers in lots of pies that perhaps they should never have been. Like, for instance, we now know in the 1980s that they were members of the United Nations at the time when they were telling us that the United Nations was the 8th king that God's going to destroy. But all the time they were paying members of the United Nations because they got some services from the United Nations. So they weren't transparent about that. So no, you're not crazy. I think that's an interesting point of view.
Correct. And the last reason I believe that is because when you have to have a test case study, I think it'd be a lot easier if you use the Jehovah's Witnesses with a religious angle than if you were to just go into the open market and say, we need to find people that don't want to have any blood. So I think that's why, like when I said, about 5 years ago, when I did a video and I said, we were lab rats of the New World Order because Watchtower in their Bible says it's a New World Translation. I mean, they're telling us that they're in bed. Right on their Bible, they're telling us who they associate with. So they're, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I think that's why Watchtower doesn't show us who they're in bed with financially.
Yes, I think I do know of cases where people who are not Jehovah's Witnesses have gone into hospital and said, I'm a Jehovah's Witness, I can't have blood, because they know actually that it was better for them not to have blood.
Well, thank you. And Rick, this is a great show. You guys doing fabulous.
Well, thank you. Well, John's going to be coming up to our convention. He's flying over from the UK. He's going to be coming to our Still Alive in 2025 convention up here in August. So he's going to be a speaker, and it's going to be all live streamed. It's going to be really a wonderful convention, but for those that can't make it, it will be live stream, and John is going to be coming on. I believe it's Saturday morning at 10:45, I believe. So we're looking forward to John's talk at the convention coming up in 3 weeks. All right, let's see if anyone else wants to call in here. Go ahead, you're on with us. Hit *6. You must have a question for John. My goodness. Liaison Committee, you've heard of it. I've always was frightened of it, to be honest with you. In fact, even John, I have to ask you this question. You know, I often thought when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, if the unthinkable happened, and it really did at one point. My former wife, she was rushed off to the hospital. She had a brain hemorrhage, and of course, that is a bleed in the brain, as you know, I'm sure. And you know, generally speaking, that's fatal. If a person has a brain hemorrhage, generally speaking, they put the person in the back room and they die. Well, when she got to the hospital, the surgeons looked at it. They took X-rays, and the surgeon came in. He says, "Rick," he says, "I believe I can really help your wife. I'm going to get in there and see what's going on with her." And so, you know, I really figured at that point she was going to die. But the doctor came out and he said, "You know, we're working on it. The bleeding has stopped, but blood was certainly on my mind." And I have to tell you sincerely, even though I was a loyal Jehovah's Witness, I would not have, I would not have let her die for refusing blood, even though she didn't want it. She did not want it. In fact, even when they were putting her in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, she's yelling out as loud as she could. Of course, she was in pain. "No blood, no blood, no blood." That's the last thing I heard her saying. But I often thought myself, if I was put in a position, and I'd like to know really some of the people listening into this program, if they were put in a position that, you know, it's a life and death matter. You're on the deathbed right now, and do you want it or not? Did you ever run into someone that was hedging? Someone that said, "Well, I'm going to take it"? Did someone ever express that to you, John?
Yes, we did come into contact with people like that. Of course, they didn't always tell us. Very often, they could just make a pact with the doctor that, look, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they think I'm not having blood, but if anything happens to me, can you please give it to me? So yes, not everyone was as resolute as we might think. When you're facing death, then I think that it's a very sobering thing. So yes, Rick, we did come across that. We personally never browbeat anybody. We didn't. I'm sure that has happened. So I'm not protecting the Watchtower organization and hospital liaison committees. But if someone was going to take blood, we used to withdraw. We should just leave, because we knew that they knew what the score was, and if they were going to have it, then that was between them and the doctors. There was occasions when we became aware that someone had blood, and of course in those days it was it could be a disfellowshipping offence if you willfully took blood. Not often were people disfellowshipped. They were seen as making a very weak decision, and so they were often sort of offered a Bible study again, and maybe taken any privileges they had away. But some people did get disfellowship, so it did mean a spiritual death as well.
Well, thank you for answering that. I know it's getting late over there, John. So I'm going to let you go. We do have some other people that might want to speak up here, but I want you're not getting any younger, and you were nice. You were nice enough. Yeah.
I'm happy, Rick, as long as you don't mind me being in the dark. I'm not going to go out and try and. I'm sitting in a place where there's an automatic light sensor to be private, and of course I'm not moving, so it doesn't think there's anyone here, so it's turning the light off. But as long as you can see me and hear me, I'm very happy to take other questions, but I'll be guided by you.
Well, thank you. So if anyone has one more question, we'll go one more question. What do you think? I'm thinking now the audience. Hey, well, what did you think? If you had to think about this when you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you had to say, well, what would happen if I was in an accident? What would happen if I fell and cut myself? What would I do? Would I die? Would I let the liaison committee kind of suggest to me that this would not be the thing to do, take blood? What would you do? I want to hear that. John wants to hear it. So go ahead. Don't be bashful. call into the program. I thought this, I really thought that, many witnesses, at least in my own way of thinking, when it came down to push or shove, John, I'd say, man, I'm going to live. I'm going to live. It might taint my conscience. I might be a little guilty about it the rest of my life, but I want to be here. I don't want to check out early. Well, John, I see we're getting no more takers. Do we have one more in there? Go ahead. You're on.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Tom. Yep.
Yeah. So I know that while I was Jehovah's Witness, I never would have accepted blood. And then after that, I now, do not request blood. So I had this is a situation where they had to use blood plasma in order to reduce swelling in my throat, so I could breathe again. And I'm pretty sure would that have been against, as a Jehovah's Witness, would I have probably died and not been able to receive that?
I'm really sorry. I couldn't hear that. I heard, I think, the word plasma. So Rick, could you just reiterate that question, and I'll do my best to answer it.
Yeah, it kind of broke up in the end there, Tom. Just rephrase the last part of that question.
Okay. So I had to receive blood plasma treatment to reduce swelling in my throat so that I could breathe without a tube. And my question was, I know that they take the blood from the patient and then they run it through a centrifuge or whatever, and they get the plasma, separate that out. Is that allowed as a Jehovah's Witness? Do you know? Or is it because it has anything to do with blood and blood plasma that is, would I have maybe passed away if I was a Jehovah's Witness and not been able to have that procedure? Just curious.
Did you hear him, John?
No, I'm afraid I didn't.
What he's saying, that's Tom from New Hampshire on with us. And what Tom is saying is that at one point in his life, I don't know when it was, but he had to take, he had some type of problem going on in his throat. So they had to give him blood plasma. So he's wondering if, the position that a Jehovah's Witness would take on plasma. Could they take that?
Certainly when I was in, no. The four major blood components, red cells, white cells, platelets, and plasma. The plasma, the best way of describing it is all of the liquid. Once you take the red cells and the white cells and the platelets out of the liquid, you're left with the plasma. Now, the plasma contains all of the other essential things. But as a liquid, you couldn't take it as a Jehovah's Witness. But do you know what they've done? They were able to freeze dry the plasma so that instead of it being liquid, it's like in a powder form, if you like. That was a matter of conscience. So you couldn't have plasma as a liquid containing all of the blood ingredients, but you could, and I'm trying to think of the name of what they called it. It's where they freeze it so that it can be put in, but not as a liquid. And so all of the blood components that you need that are in the plasma, you can have. So no, you can't have it as plasma, as a liquid, but there are ways of extracting all of the goodness from the plasma and putting it into like a freeze-dried component, and you can have that.
Thank you. That is, well, I was intubated, so I wouldn't have been able to express those concerns if I wanted to. And that sounds like something that has to be done way beforehand. So basically, I wouldn't have been able to receive the treatment at the time. Thank you. And I'm glad that I did receive the treatment because this was in December of last year, and I'm alive today because of it. So.
Well, thank you, Tom. No, in fact, I'm glad that
Thank you, Tom.
I'm glad you took it, and I'm glad you're still with us, Tom. You're a good man.
Yeah.
Well, you're still here with us. But in fact, just this week, just yesterday, my wife, she also was one of Jehovah's Witnesses for many years, and she had to go into the hospital, and she had some issues going on, and when she needed some blood, and you know what it is. In fact, there's residual thoughts that keep coming up. Even though a person's out of the organization, there's probably even people that are not Jehovah's Witnesses today, but they still have that feeling, that residual feeling that, no, I can't take blood. But we know that even though, John, what you said earlier, doctors would try to do everything they can around it, but sometimes it is absolutely necessary. So I found this fascinating call here tonight, John. You're coming on and being with us, and I'm looking so forward. Do we have one more person? Go ahead. If you do, you're on with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Rick and John, this is Gilbert. I'm not going to believe it because, you know, there's these web pages where Jehovah's Witnesses post the tax returns for Watchtower where they have the investments. And so I also asked artificial intelligence, and I put it in the chat section, what are the top companies? And it says the top 6 companies performing in-house services for plasma fractionation are listed below. Baxter's number 1. Well, it just so happens that Watchtower has had 50,000 shares on that. 50,000 shares. When you look at it, they probably sold them by now, but when you type in, you know, we all know about the rating on how they own shares in companies that make bombs. But that same tax form, they list Baxter, who is one of the top 6 companies that does fractionalization. So I said it just as a hypothetical, but there's no proof. But I wonder if Baxter goes into Watchtower, 25 Columbia Heights back in the day, and they just walk into the offices and they have, you know, who knows what kind of conversations. And that would be kind of like an insider trading thing, right? Well, we got the customers and you got the product. It would make sense to buy stock in that company.
Well, I'll tell you, Gilbert, you should be working for the FBI. You got a good analytical way about you. Hey, let's go to Michael King. Michael King, you're on with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question. I'm late to the conversation, but I have a question about are people willing to take vaccinated blood? I'm a little leery about taking a blood transfusion from a vaccinated person. Does he have a comment on that?
Well, what he's asking you, John, is the caller is, vaccinations. Of course, that's been in the news a lot in the last few years, ever since COVID came on the scene. But what this man is asking is he would have a hard time taking a blood transfusion from a person that was vaccinated. How would you feel about that?
Well, I think we have to be honest and say that blood still isn't 100% safe. And that's nothing to do with religious beliefs. That's just a fact. So that's why it's a personal choice. And that's why also many of the people, like for instance, hemophiliacs that were given factor 8. Factor 8 is something that was in the plasma for blood clotting as well, I think. And that factor 8 was contaminated, and so they're suing the government now and suing the hospitals in the UK. So we know for a fact that not all blood products are and can be safe. So I don't know about the people that have had the COVID injection. I mean, I've had the COVID injection. I know what the theories are and the scare stories are. I'm not going to get involved in, you know, whether there's some sort of control mechanism because of having COVID. I chose to have it. I knew I've got two personal friends that died from having COVID, so for me, it made sense to have it. But I don't know whether the COVID injection that goes into a person, perhaps 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, is still working in that person's blood, so that you'd get it if you had a blood transfusion from someone, you know, that had a COVID injection. So I really don't know the answer to that question, but I think it's something that you'd have to do some research on and make a personal decision on.
Well, very good. Thank you. Did
So, Rick,
that answer your
Rick,
question?
exactly. Can I?
Are we?
Oh, sorry.
Who was this?
Exactly.
Oh, Zachary, go ahead. Yeah, John Willis. Go ahead. Say hello,
Yeah,
John.
right. Right. Okay, yes. Thanks so much. John, I really enjoyed your experience. I like your honesty and the way you try to be balanced in telling your experience. This is reminding me of something that happened to me some years ago. I had been at Bethel. I was in a French-speaking congregation for a while, and so I had become kind of fluent in French. And after I had left Bethel, something came up. I got a call from a circuit overseer, and he asked me if I could go to the hospital because there was a Bible study whose child was real sick. The child was about a year old or so, and the blood issue might come up. And so he wanted me to come there. She was a French-speaking woman, and he wanted me to come there so that, you know, she wouldn't have a language problem with the blood situation. This is the ironic thing about it. The person who was studying with this woman was a sister who was a regular pioneer, and she was a French teacher. And the circuit overseer told me, while he was talking to me on the phone before I went to the hospital, he told me that the sister who studied with her, the French teacher, did not want to be involved because she did not want blood guilt on herself. And I thought about it. Well, isn't that the flip side? She didn't want blood guilt, and I can only assume that she was concerned that if the baby died, she would be blood guilty because she encouraged the mother not to let the baby have blood. And isn't that the flip side where a witness would feel blood guilty if a person died because they did not take blood, if the witness had encouraged them to withhold blood from the baby? I still can't get over that to this day, but I understand it. She in herself wondered if that was the right thing to do, to withhold blood.
So, John, I'm sorry, John. Did you hear what he said?
No, let me just explain what's happening. It's so fuzzy. I can hear odd words, but I can't make out the gist. And I don't want to. I respect very much these questions, and I would, if you could just
I'll reiterate what he said. Basically, this is Zachary calling, and he's a frequent caller here on the 6 screens. He's a former Jehovah's Witness. And what Zachary is saying is that they called him at one point. He was an elder, and they called him at one point to go to a hospital where there was a situation where a little baby who was actually the baby of a Bible study, just a Bible study. And the little baby, the baby evidently required a blood transfusion. So this man, Zachary, who's on the call, he went there to try to see what he could do to. I'm sure the Watchtower wanted him to talk the lady out of let the baby not have a transfusion. But anyways, what Zachary was wondering is that the actual Jehovah's Witness who was studying with this Bible study, she felt that she didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole because she thought that she could be held blood guilty. Do I have that right, Zachary?
Yeah, she felt that she would be blood guilty if the baby died because of not taking blood.
Yeah. Thank you, Zachary. Yeah, I think you're right there. I understand that. And do you know what? There was another alternative. I remember visiting I think it was the Hospital Liaison Committee in Vancouver in Canada, and also in Seattle. And we were discussing a slightly different view, and that is, imagine that you're a Jehovah's Witness and you were very staunch, and you're saying, no, I don't want anything, any alternatives, no, nothing. I don't want none of the smaller components. What about, and this is an argument we used as a Jehovah's Witness, not now, but as a Jehovah's Witness. Imagine that Jehovah God is okay with you accepting pretty much everything other than the major components. Imagine Jehovah is happy with that, and you refuse it and die. Are you blood guilty? So it was just an alternative view that if God wouldn't mind you having certain alternatives or certain fractions, but you make the decision, I'm not going to have them because I think the Bible says no, and you've got it wrong, then are you blood guilty? So to think of it from that direction, I mean, that just confused the brothers and sisters, but there was an alternative view.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach. Yeah.
I have a question. I remember the Kingdom Ministry where they mentioned what blood fractions were, and they gave specific blood fractions. I didn't disagree with it at the time at all. But the one thing I could not understand is one of the blood fractions that was listed was hemoglobin. How is that so? How is that not more like a component rather than a fraction?
Yeah, the hemoglobin it's like a major part of the blood. So I know it gets very, very it gets a bit deep when you start talking about, well, it goes back to my illustration of the apple pie, where if what part of the apple pie is all right and what isn't. But the hemoglobin is the iron containing part of the red blood cells. So what's caused this problem, and it's a nice problem, is that scientists have worked so hard at what used to be just blood is now they've been able to go so much into it that they can extract pretty much everything from it, and that's why the Watchtower had to make a stand to say, look, we're just saying now, and this is all we can say, the four major components, we cannot say you can have that because that is the major component. It's part of the apple pie, if you like, the main part, but everything else is up to you, and that's why they've done that.
Well, very good. Well, we're gonna let you go there, John, because I know it's, boy, I'll tell you what, you're a real trooper. You're over there and you're working and while you're working on your laptop, you had it with you. I called you today at the last minute when you came on. Thank you. And we're looking forward to seeing you at the 2025 convention up here that we're having, and you're bringing someone along with you. You're flying over from the UK and you're bringing a fellow in, another friend of yours from Philadelphia. We're looking forward to meeting him. And then thank you, John. And I just wanted to bring this up too. We're going to do the rest of the news here later. But did you hear about the toasting? Witnesses can now toast. You did hear?
I did hear it. Yeah, I read about that today. And at first, Rick, because there are so many clever people out there that are doing fun things. You sometimes have to look and think, is this someone having a joke? And have they superimposed one of the governing body? But no, actually, you realize, no, this is right. And I've just come off earlier today came off a discussion where you ask, well, where does this end then? Because if they say that toasting, because it doesn't no longer have any religious significance, is okay, what about birthdays? Do birthdays have any more religious significance? No, they don't. So I'm going to say, watch this space, and there'll be other things.
Well, no, that's very smart of you. And in fact, most of the people listening in, I'm sure that they're thinking the same things. But in this line of reasoning, and even the governing body member, his name was Stephen Lett. Well, he was the one that did this on the update on their streaming platform, and he let the witnesses now be aware that you can toast. But in the context of his suggesting this, he brought up that it was a conscientious matter. Now, do you think that the Watchtower ever would get to a point where it's kind of suggested already when it comes to blood that it is a conscientious matter, but a lot of people, their conscience are plagued if they took it. Do you think that the Watchtower would kind of relax their position on blood in time in view of all of these changes they're making as of late?
Can I be very blunt about that? And that is, if they announced tomorrow that you could have a blood transfusion, I think the lawsuits that would be coming their way from all of the people that have died and the families of people that have died, they would be having an avalanche of lawsuits. So even if they actually worked out that the Bible didn't mean blood transfusions, I think they just would not do anything, or they might introduce it very, very slowly after a number of years, because I really do think that families that have been told that their loved ones died faithfully refusing blood and now told you could have had it, I think they would be I think they'd be sued.
Oh, yeah. In fact, even when they came out, like I say, I believe it was back in the 1980s, they started coming out with this idea of taking fractions. And I thought at that time, I was still a loyal witness at the time, but I thought at that time that was a maneuver. That was some positioning they were taking to be able to get away from it. But I'm thinking maybe something backfired, because maybe someone's coming and said, don't touch that, because, boy, we are going to be opening up the gates of lawsuits all over the place.
Yeah.
So you're right with that one, John. Well, John, thank you. You're a good man. Don't you ever change. I like your style. The people really love you on here. They really, really do. And you just keep cranking away at it. We're going to see you up here in August, about 3 weeks, and have a safe trip coming over here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. It's a great privilege to be on, and coming to Boston and that area, to the USA. I do love your country, I'd have to say. So I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, you know, and let your wife know we thank her for letting you come too. We really mean that. Thank you.
I will thank her, but I won't wake her up now, Rick. I'll tell her in the morning.
Tell her in the morning. You get to bed, all right? You get to bed. Thank you, John. All right. All right. Well, that's John Viney. I'll tell you what, he had a lot to say. A good man. We really appreciate him coming on here tonight. Let me get this banner down here so I can see you guys. And okay, that's it. So anyways, I'm Rick Farron. I'm here at the Six Screens Telenetwork. And that man, I'll tell you what, I like him. He's a good man. He speaks the truth. I like he's very thoughtful, isn't he? He doesn't say things on the wing. Sometimes I say things on the wing. It can kind of get you in trouble. But he thought every single thing he said, I could see him on video. He was carefully saying things. He didn't want to say anything that could mislead someone. Because I'll tell you what, when he was on the liaison committee, he had to be, I often thought about that. Those guys, it had to be, even though I don't like the position they took on blood, but he had to be sharp. He couldn't go into the hospital and blah, 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 I don't know what's going on. he had to have some knowledge of it all. So good for him. We're glad to have John on with us. Well, friends, I'm glad you're with us tonight. Thank you for spending your night here with us. I know it's the 4th of July weekend. And did you go to the 4th of July parade or anything yesterday? Did you go to the fireworks? You know, even that at one time could be looked down upon. I had a friend when I was in Florida that went to a 4th of July parade, and he never stopped hearing about it. Why'd you go there? It's patriotic. It's nationalistic. But friends, isn't it nice? Isn't it nice to be out of the Jehovah's Witness organization? Isn't it nice to have freedom? Well, we got a lot to talk about tonight, and we know what the big elephant in the room is, right? Everybody knows that. That's what everyone's been talking about this week, the big elephant in the room. And you say, well, what was it? Well, we know what it had to do with. Let me just get my, I'm just trying to get, there we go. Okay. So anyways, let's just talk about that. Everybody knows. I'm not reporting this for the first time. It's been all over the internet. Everybody knows what's going on. We will get to it, but it has to do with toasting. You put your glass up and you hit another person's glass and you toast. It's kind of a common practice. Well, we'll get to that in a second. But I just wanted to give you my little spin. I wanted to give my thoughts on all of these changes. They are coming in rapid fire sequence. It is just amazing what's going on in the Watchtower. So what I wanted to bring up, there seems to be a real power struggle. At least that's the way I'm looking at it. A power struggle that's going on at Watchtower. And you say, well, what do you mean by a power struggle? It seems like some of this stuff, I don't think all of the governing body or all of the Watchtower officials are in total unison with what's taking place, especially when it comes to some of these things that we've heard of as late. And we just heard this week that you can now toast. Well, let me do this. Why don't I pull up the video? Let's pull the video up. Let me get in there right now. Let me just go over here. It takes a couple of seconds to do this. Excuse me. So let me pull the video up. We can watch it. We can dissect it. We can talk about it. So let me do that. I'm going to share a screen here. And let's see if we can't do that. Stephen Lett, he's on here. All right. Let's see. Toasting is allowed video. All right. Where is Stephen? All right. Let's see if we can't get this up here. Let me just hold on 1 second. Toasting is allowed video. Okay. You guys probably have seen it. You probably have seen it. And for some reason, I'm not knowing why this isn't coming up the way it should. But let's just do it right now. Let me bring it down. Toasting is allowed. Should be this clip right here. Let's open this up. Let's see if I can't get this. Let me share it, first of all. And let me see why this. No, that's not it. That's not it. Well, anyways, I'll get it as we're talking here about it. I want to get your thoughts. Then we will play the clip. And I'll get it while we're kind of talking here and multitask. But anyways, let's just talk about this for a bit. There seems to be a seismic shift right now taking place in the Watchtower. In my way of thinking, there seems to be an ongoing struggle. I don't think that all the governing body and all the officials of the Watchtower, I don't think they're all on the same page. I really, really don't. I think that they're making some drastic changes here. And I've been getting information coming in here to the 6 screens. We're like a news clearinghouse. People send me pictures. People send me news articles. And I want to thank all the people that do that. But I wanted to just bring up this pure worship convention. That this has got the Jehovah's Witness organization baffled. The governing body is pulling hair out of their head. It's arguably the worst intrusive piece of propaganda probably put out by the Watchtower. Really, they are just trying to make themselves seem like they are nothing but great, wonderful Jehovah's chariots on the move. Friends, they're tanking. We all know they're tanking. And if the Jehovah's Witnesses aren't tanking, why do you think the governing body is relaxing all of these rules? If the governing body did this because they thought that Now Jehovah is giving them new insight. That's baloney. They're changing the rules because they know people are leaving. They know people are not going to join their organization. The beards, the pants, the check the box ministry, and now toasting. Friends, the organization seems like it's acting in a very schizophrenic way, really. And some of the things that I've been coming across, some of the stuff that people have been sending me, it's been unbelievable. I have never seen, really, I've been doing this broadcast for 20 years. I have never seen such a spin. There are so many YouTube videos that are speaking about this toasting on Reddit, JWN. Every site you get on in the ex-witness world is talking about the toasting. This thing might have more legs on it than we realize. And then also, people are coming up with all kinds of strange ideas. As a matter of fact, one thing I was reading online, well, we know Mark Sanderson. Well, he's a governing body member, and he seems to be one that's pretty, he's different than the rest. He really, really is. Some think that he's the head guy. Some think he's the guy that's really, really the one that's taken the lead as a governing body member. Now, this is what's been suggested. I'm not suggesting it, but this is what I've heard online. And it got me thinking. And, I talked at the very beginning about a struggle going on at the top, a power struggle. Now, this happens many times in religions. It's happened in religions. It happened with the Armstrong group. It's happened in other religions as well, that there's a power struggle, but it happens all the time in business. You have a bunch of people on the board of directors in a business. Not everybody is in sync. Not everybody is going to want the same outcome. So some are saying Mark Sanderson, governing body member, he's trying to deliberately topple and dismantle the organization. Have you heard this? Well, I mean, we've talked a little bit about this in the past. Yes, Sylvan. Yes.
Just a quick thought, because I have to go back on mute. The thing that really alarmed me about this latest modification, outside of how silly it is, governing body members sitting there giving a conversation on clinking glasses, but notice, Brother Farron, that they never say Jehovah doesn't have a problem with wearing pants, wearing beards, not wearing a shirt, clinking a glass. It's always what the governing body feels. If you are a Watchtower witness listening to this program, isn't the governing body supposed to speak for Jehovah? But yet, with all these modifications, not once did you hear them say what the Bible says, or what Jehovah God, who they are supposed to be a spokesperson for, or even Jesus Christ. It's always what they think. Why don't people see that this organization is not guided by God and that they're just making these decisions on their own? Thank you, Fan.
Well, you would think so. You would think that that's what they would feel. Hey, let's play the thank you, Sylvan, for coming on. I really, not Sylvan, it's Stefan. Thank you. Excuse me 1 second. Let's play the film. I want to play the film. This is the clip. This is the clip of Stephen Lett. If you're on a radio network, you'll hear it. If you're on YouTube and Facebook right now, you'll see it. So let's do this right now. We're going to play the clip. Listen in. See what you think. See what you guys think. Let's play the clip. Let me make sure it's unmuted. Let me just do this. This is Stephen Lett announcing you can now toast.
Another example is toasting or clinking glasses. For years, Jehovah's Witnesses have avoided this practice because it may have had origins in false religion. However, now in most places, toasting or clinking glasses no longer has any religious association. It is viewed simply as a friendly custom. Therefore, after prayerful consideration, the governing body has concluded that there is no need to make a rule regarding toasting and clinking glasses. Each Christian should use the principles that we have discussed in this update and his own Bible-trained conscience to make a good decision. What does this mean? Are we saying that toasting is okay now at all times and in every situation? Of course not. We are simply saying that there is no need to make a rule. Each Christian will need to use Bible principles to make a good decision in each instance. Since there are so many different situations that could arise in the 240 lands where Jehovah's people serve, what a blessing that Jehovah has given us these Bible principles. Let's briefly review them.
All right. Well, I mean, what do you think of that? Is that correct?
Is he talking to people like they're in kindergarten?
Pixie, I get the same feeling. Who'd like to speak up and talk? Go ahead. Yep, you're on.
Rick, did you make that video of yourself? Are you putting us on?
No, it's real.
No, I know
I saw
it's
it
real.
this morning.
No, I know it's real. That was a joke. No, this is too. Okay, now they're going too far. They all need to. No, they all need to be disfellowshipped now. The whole governing body. Look, I don't even remember. Somebody told me once, clinking glasses, the reason why they clink is to chase bad spirits away or something like that. You can't tell me, based on the witness metric, that that's not some kind of a pagan practice.
They told me I went back to my Viking ancestors, so I did it more.
So this is some kind of a pagan. You can't tell me it's not a pagan practice, right? And this does mean, and I'm very conservative with this stuff. I don't say it too fast. They're not going to be celebrating birthdays because, well, they will say that two bad things happen with birthdays in the Bible. But one day they'll read something about Job's children having a feast day for each one of them, and that's how they got killed because they were. Well, that's a problem about those days. They did die because of the storm while they were in the house of one of the children. But I still say birthdays may be okay. Christmas might even be okay because a lot of people celebrate it without any kind of. People celebrate Christmas without any religious ideas. It's now a season thing. So Christmas is going to be celebrated too.
It's a cuckoo clock. I think it's cuckoo.
That's my clock. That thing offends me like that every hour until this is the last
wonderful.
hour.
That's great.
It calls me cuckoo. But that's the last time. But you know what I'm saying? This is it has everything's pagan, and that's why we don't do it. He just now said it no longer has religious connotation. People don't do it because of religion. Well, you can say the same thing about Christmas. You can say the same thing about birthdays. I do see them moving that way. I think that one of the things that's going on with them is the organization. It used to be fresh. Everything worked. When they had the old generation rule, this generation will by no means pass away until all these things occur. When that used to be the case, it was still fresh. The partakers at the memorial was steadily decreasing, but then it stopped. It stopped decreasing. And they had to change the generation teaching. I think the organization has gone on so long. The end did not come when it was expected, according to their doctrine, that the organization is now stale. It is now in that stale stage.
Well, I agree with you, Zach.
Yeah.
And I think you'll agree with me too. I mean, I have to really say that at this point, the Watchtower, they are planning to change this cult completely. This is just one of the cogs in their wheel. they're going to be using. I agree with you. The next things are going to be birthdays, Christmas, Mother's Day. They've got to do it. And, I went back and I picked up just a few things that they've changed, and I got the dates on them as well. But in January of 2023, January 18th, there was an announcement on jw.org that they now have 2 new governing body members, Gage Flegel and Jeffrey Winder. So we see a lot of changes. Then in February of 2023, they made a brief announcement on their platform that Anthony Morris III is removed from the governing body. And then on the 23rd, October 23, annual reporting hours spent in the preaching is no longer permitted. Then in December of 23, beards are now permitted. And then March 2024, ties are no longer mandatory in meetings and preaching. You don't have to wear a tie, and women are allowed to wear pants. And then October 5th, 2024, annual meeting, 2 new governing body members, Jody Jadell and Jacob Rump. And it goes on and on. I've got more changes here. I've been keeping track of them. Now here we have July 4th, 2025, toasts. Toasts are permitted. This shows me that these absurd changes are signs that the once mighty Jehovah's organization is struggling to stay afloat. What do you think, Zach?
I agree with everything you said just now. Yeah, and the governing body changing. Remember, I think one of the first new ones had been Loesch. Was he the first new one? And when Sanderson was appointed to the governing body, he was young. He was in his 50s, which for a governing body member is pretty young. And so if he seems to be the lead person, he's the most experienced of the young ones. So he does have experience. They probably do rely on him. And he's the leader of the young ones. He's
got language skills too.
Yeah, well then, yes, here you go. That would be important.
Yeah, back to as I even.
All of these things are folk ways. Toasting glasses probably goes back to thousands of years when you met somebody and you didn't know if they were friend or foe, and you sat down and had a little alcohol and you toasted your glasses and you made a friend. That goes back thousands of years, like a lot of other folk ways. And they're always trying to point out that these human customs are in some way pagan or wrong, and they simply are not. Most of them had nothing to do with religion or gods in the first place.
Well, I wanted to interject a thought here. I wanted to just bring a thought into the mix here. Yes, in fact, it is online. A lot of people are saying that Sanderson seems to be the head honcho there. And, that one thought I brought up, that it almost seems, and, I've been doing this program for many years, and, there's certain themes that run through some of these programs I do. And it's been brought up numerous times here on the 6 screens that it almost as though the Watchtower is trying to deliberately, mess this whole organization up. But, then I think, well, why are they trying to relax the rules? I mean, some will leave because of that. But we all know they're relaxing the rules so they can get more recruits. So I don't really believe they're trying to deliberately, mess the organization up to the point they're out of business. But I do think this, and this could very well be the case. The Watchtower has so many lawsuits. And then, I mentioned there when Jody Jadell, he was the newest governing body member. Now, Jody Jadell is a big wheel in the banking industry in Europe in particular with USB Bank. And UBS, I should say, we realized that it was a big wheel in that bank, and now he heads up. Now think about this. I just want to throw this on the table. Jody Jadell is a new governing body member. He's a big time banker. He's also involved with that financial advisory service that the Watchtower set up a year or so ago in Ireland, and it's got $5 billion in assets. Now, this idea of toasting might have come about because of the position the Watchtower is putting themselves in. For example, when you go in a business meeting and you got some guy that's going to invest $5 million into the Watchtower Advisory Board, and so Jody takes him out to lunch, and the man says, okay, Jody, I'm going to write you a check out for $5 million right now. Let's toast to it. Now imagine if Jody Jadell says, well, I can't toast. I can't do this. It's against my religion. That man might not write the check. So, I mean, could that be going on?
The elite sometimes use it to close a deal. That is correct.
So I just got thinking of that today. Could that be going on here? You know, because the Watchtower is going to come.
Yes.
It's so archaic. And I mean, also that also, Pixie, you know, if they find out, you know, maybe it's the guy's birthday, and you know, he's a big wig. He's got plenty of dough floating around, and he wants to invest in the Watchtower Advisory Board, in the advisory business they have. So now, you know, people in the business world, they give each other gifts. Oh, it's your birthday, Mr. Millionaire. We got a little present for you. That's what the real world does. How are they going to run a big time $5 billion, multi-billion dollar advisory firm and not involve themselves with secular practices? It's not going to work.
That's true, because a lot of those social customs are etiquette at the prom. You are right.
So that's just one thought, but I don't know if I'm right or not. I like to think I am.
The other thing that I found this week, I've been trying to find a legal loophole for 2 years now. And in Western Virginia and in West Virginia, there are still 2 snake handling churches. And they have First Amendment rights. But the history of that belief, they're very different Pentecostals. The history of that belief, many of their members have died, and many of their members have refused the venom cure and died of that. And in the 40s and 50s, these churches were shut down except for 2 examples. And if something like that could be used as a legal precedent against the blood doctrine, maybe lives would be saved. That's the only loophole I can find that's got the First Amendment in it, where churches were closed down because people died of their dangerous beliefs.
Well, there you go, Pixie. That makes sense. All right. Well, thank you, Pixie.
But that took me 2 years to find even how a case could be constructed. So if there's any legals out there, they should look at that.
Well, look at all the angles. Hey, we just had New Jersey on. New Jersey, you want to come back? Did you want to come on, Kim? New Jersey, come back with us. All right. Hey, if you don't want to speak about the toasting, what do you think? We got a lot of people online with us right now. We got people calling into the radio station. So why don't you come in and let us know? What do you think? What do you think about the toasting? Do you think it's going to go somewhere? Go ahead. You're on with us. Don't be bashful. We just had New Jersey. We had a bunch of callers on just a little bit ago. But I do want to mention a few things here concerning that toasting. Like I just said, and I can't tell you for sure, but it could be because of the Watchtower's business arrangements, their advisory firm for investing in the stock market investments could be one of the reasons that they're doing this. Let's go to the Northern Peninsula of Michigan. Come on, Ken.
Yeah, Mr. Farron, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I never heard that in the about the Watchtower Society, but well, I guess we can say pros. We can say na zdrowie. We can say ein prosen again, I guess. So, but we couldn't before. So, which is different ways that they make a toast in different languages. Yeah, I haven't studied how much that connects to paganism or not, but I'm pretty sure that it's a traditional practice amongst the various different countries and not a pagan practice like they try to allege. So.
Well, thank you, Ken, for sharing some thoughts with it. Appreciate that.
I got one more for you too.
Sure,
Which going to be for a different time, maybe later on tonight. But I did some research on that snake handling that's in the book of Mark. There, that does not. Just going to break it brief here. That does not apply to handling poisonous snakes. As a matter of fact, if you'll read there, power was supposed to be given over the apostles over those serpents. Even power to kill them if they were being a nuisance. So I'll get to you more on that later on, and let's see if we can get some more calls in on this toasting business.
Very good. Well, thank you, Ken. Always good to hear from you. My goodness. Yeah. So who would like to speak up? Yeah, we have Maverick, I believe, from London. Go ahead, Maverick.
Hi, Rick. Yeah, I've got a theory for you. If I'm correcting there's some stories about the clinking of drinks in ancient times, like the Vikings. It was to do with trust as well. Like they would smash their glasses together so that some of the drink would splash into each other's glasses. So that this is what I heard. I mean, I don't know if it's true or become legend, but if that's true, that if someone's trying to poison you, then you would have the trust of knowing that everyone drinks mixed around. So I'm thinking maybe they've got the beards now at Bethel HQ. They've got the beards. Maybe they want to be like Vikings and clank their glasses in. If someone's trying to take out one of the Watchtower, the governing body members, they can all clank their glasses together and make sure that no one's trying to take anyone out with poison or something like that. So that's my theory. I think they just think, well, we can't take anything for chance now. We've got to make sure that no one's trying to take any of us out. So we'll just do what the Vikings used to do and just clank our glasses together. I mean, it's crazy. I really struggle to understand why this is an issue in the first place, because, as you said, I can't see why this is an issue. Why now? I don't understand.
Well, Maverick, if I was still one of Jehovah's Witnesses, well, what I would really think in terms of, okay, so you basically said we couldn't do this before. Whether it comes to the beards, women were in slacks, the way they do a lot of these things, these rules they had in the past. So now it's changed. So did God change his mind? I mean, I would have to think of this from a biblical aspect, from a godly aspect. If this is the faithful and discreet slave, they're the only people on the planet that have got information from God himself. Why would God change things? It's not sensible at all. Let's go with 978. I believe that's Susan. Susan, did you want to say something?
Yes, in Rome, they invented the lipstick. Women wear lipstick, and that started in Rome. And the reason women put that red on their lips was to prevent evil spirits from coming into their mouth. Well, that's pagan, okay? But they've never said a word about lipstick, ever. But it is pagan. Anyone can look that up. So, why for all these years was toasting considered evil, but lipstick wasn't?
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Maybe they knew that sisters would have no part of that.
Yeah.
Sisters won't want to take that.
Well, it's the same thing with wedding rings, Zach and Susan. We all know that wedding rings come from pagan origin, but the witnesses wear them. So, I mean, why is it you can have some things that are taboo and other things that will let it slide? So here we go with I'm just thinking out loud here. Don't take it to the bank and cash it. But I'm just thinking, and it got me thinking of Toni Morris today. It really did. Governing body member that was abruptly let go. Remember that? Now I'm thinking what happened here. Was Tony the one that might have been preventing the Watchtower? Because he was a pretty strong character. he seemed to be taking the lead at one point among the governing body. Was Tony? I mean, Tony Tight Pants. You know how he hated the tight pants. You know how he hated a lot of things. But was he really one that was against all of this new light, so to speak? So they had to get rid of him? That's a possibility. I'm not saying it is, but all of a sudden, here's what happens. Here's what happens. When you're around an organization that you're never getting the truth from, this would be like people, right? If you're never getting the truth from people, you automatically start thinking things. You conjure things up. So what I'm thinking is happening here, even in the Watchtower, is there's a lot of things that are being conjured up, and rightfully so, because they're not being given the truth. There's got to be so many PME witnesses, those that are physically in and mentally in. There's going to be so many of them right now that are scratching their heads. But I'm sure there's some that are very loyal and going along with it all. But there's got to be some that are going, I've had enough. I don't know how much of this I can really take. And this idea in changing their stance on toasting, this is kind of like, it's so clear to me what the Watchtower is doing with all of these changes. They are completely rebranding their religion, and they're trying to do it within just a few years. Now, just think about this. What's going to happen in the future? Right now, we talked a little bit about it just probably 20 minutes ago. The Watchtower organization has got lawsuits like they've never seen before. They just keep coming forward. Every week I'm going over JW World News. It's all about lawsuits, and the Watchtower, they're getting their pantsuit off them. So what I'm thinking is, maybe this is a way to deliberately, and again, I have to go back to that thought again. Maybe they're deliberately trying to rebrand everything, cut the witnesses loose, don't have this stuff hanging over your conscience the rest of your life. Tank the Watchtower, sell all the buildings off in Brooklyn, because they know these lawsuits are going to kill them. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just thinking out loud. But then I'm thinking they could sell all these buildings off, and then what they do is go over to Ireland where the taxes are a lot lower, and try to start a whole new religion, because this one's cooked. Take it off the grill. I mean, it's on life support. I mean, that could just be one of the thoughts. What do you guys think? Come on. Let's go to, I think it's Dan. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey there, Rick. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And everybody else has commented tonight. I was watching Stephen Lett. One of the things I saw him say, if you listen to the whole thing, is he said what used to be and what is today. What used to be pagan isn't pagan today. And he did bring up rings, and he did bring up Christmas lights. And he was talking about the Bethelites putting strings of white lights around their decks because they're beautiful. But he said that, of course, they make them take them down during Christmas. But what was interesting, when he did talk about the wedding ring, he said what was once viewed pagan is not pagan today. And so you can see him doing that, like Zachary and everybody's saying with the birthdays, what was pagan then isn't pagan today. Christmas, they're not cutting off people's heads and, doing all this stuff that a lot of the religions talk about, Christmas representing. So I see him setting it up. I heard him say that like 3 times, and if you listen to that whole thing, he'll say, what was pagan then isn't pagan today. And like you said, the wedding rings, roses, the calendar, all of that was pagan, but they don't speak to it. And so they're using it as props. It pisses me off because they're using it, like you said, for survival. And they're using Jesus for survival. It's a bunch of bullshit. This whole thing they got going with Jesus is a freak. They got a freak. I think what somebody did was drove by the Kingdom Hall, or not by the Kingdom Hall, but by the Fundamentalist Church and said, shit, man, they're loaded. What the hell's going on there? Well, they got this Jesus guy. We'll go in there and find out what the hell they're doing, And so they go in there and they say, well, they got this Jesus guy propped up. I mean, Rick, they're rolling this out. Jesus is being rolled out like a damn prop. And he looks like an idiot. He looks like a damn idiot. That Watchtower don't know what to do with him. You know why? Because they're creating him. They're creating a prop. It has nothing to do with religion.
They're saying this Jesus guy, he's bringing people in. But the truth of it is, they got him looking like a freak. Well, shoot his kids with some steroids, pump him up, make him look like a he-man, put that damn beard on him, make him look macho, get that damn shirt off him. You imagine them saying to the governing body, well, what are we doing? What are we doing with him? He's perfect, isn't he? Well, make him perfect,
in fact, I don't think he even had any hair on his chest. I think they shaved that all off too.
Yeah, but it's a prop. It pisses me off because it's nothing more than to find something to reel the people in. And I mean, like the
girls go nuts though.
And so like make the girls go nuts though. But I think, like somebody said earlier, I think it was Pixie, to sit there and listen to Stephen Lett. So I mean, to sit there, you'd have to be nuts. I'm telling you, but here's what I think's going on. I think what's happening is that people are like begging for Christmas. I think people are begging I think they're waiting with bated breath for Stephen Lett to give them the okay, just like the dumbass with the beards and all the pantsuits. I mean, my God, these people are 50, 60 years old being told how to dress. I mean, when I heard that, when I first heard Stephen Lett, when I first heard him say, now, we want you to, it's okay to clink the glasses, but do it in moderation. we don't want to do it for a wrong reason. I mean, it was such a goofball, you'd have to be nuts to sit there. I'm thinking, what kind of people can listen to insanity? I mean, now we're going to have a whole watchtower on how to clink a glass. I mean, you talk about micromanaging people's lives and people without minds, people without thought, people that nobody fucking owns. Excuse my language, I'm sorry. But man, it's hard to watch. It's like Zachary and Pixie said, it's hard to watch, Rick. It's hard to watch. It makes you vomit. It's like, stop it, Watchtower. Stop it, you guys. Stop doing this dumb shit.
Well,
Sorry.
No. I appreciate your enthusiasm, Dan, but everything you said is right. Any sensible-minded person, they would look at that man giving a talk like that and say, "What?" They wouldn't go along with it. They really wouldn't. And the witnesses. Oh, I do. No, I like your little.
Jesus saying they're rolling out of the free.
Oh yeah, no, he's not.
One little clip of it. There's one clip I have to say I watched. This one clip where John the Baptist was taking him into the water. And John the Baptist, it was so slow. The mind stuff was so slow. He's like, Jesus, this shouldn't be. And then Jesus has his big paws. They do two hands over his body. He goes, just let it be this one time. I'm like, all I can say is I'm speechless.
Yeah.
I'm speechless. This is like, I don't get it, Rick. I don't get it. It's like,
you're not speechless.
Thank you. I'm not speechless. You're right.
Well,
I'm over.
Well, what he's saying, everybody, even the PME witnesses, they're having a hard time with this Jesus movie. They put a Watchtower, put a lot of money into it, but it's not what. And what they're wondering is, why Jesus all of a sudden? What's all the attention on Jesus all about? And because they never focused on that before. What they're trying to do here, that they're getting this odd mixture of being a cult and trying to be a Christian religion. They're just kind of merging them together, and it's not clicking. They're trying to save a sinking ship. This thing is going down, and they're doing everything they can to make it stay up.
Yeah, and it's like they don't know what to do with them. Like what do we do with them? Well, just have them go through the motion. He's baptized by John the Baptist. It's like he's a freak.
Yeah.
You guys feel the same, like he's a freak. It has nothing to do with worship.
I think he looks like a sex symbol.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I think Angela was saying in the background, all the witness young girls that go and gaga and goo over him. Yeah.
Yes.
And in fact, I read something online, but I don't know if it's true or not, but the man is having some psychiatric issues that played Jesus. I don't know if people saw that. he's having.
The girls are getting excited. They're looking at the brothers in the house. They like, come with Jesus,
Well, what it is.
They're really proud of it.
No, I read today. I don't know how true it is, so I wasn't even going to bring it up. But friends, I'm not saying this is happening, so don't say Rick said this. But I was reading online today that the man is cracking up from this movie. He's beginning to feel like he's demonic. He's getting all kinds of strange thoughts coming into his head. I read that today, but don't take it and say it's for sure because I don't know. Well, you're on with us, and anyone want to speak up? You're on. It's just hard to beat Dan. I mean, I know he's a hard guy to follow.
Rick,
Yes.
here's a question for you. Are you thinking, do you see a picture of the old governing body with Tony Morris on the governing body, and you're sitting in the room discussing where they're going to be going, and they're asking questions about, are beards still, should we allow beards? Are you kind of saying that perhaps Tony Morris was the one holdout for all the changes that were going to be coming out?
I think so. I mean, I'm just thinking. I don't know for sure. Nobody does, but he abruptly, left the Watchtower organization, and it was done very quickly. Very little was said about it, and I just to this day, I just got thinking of that today. In fact, he was actually let go. If you go back and try to find out when it was, I mean, maybe just find out, just for the record here. I did have I wrote a bunch of this stuff down today. Tony Morris, he was let go on February 22nd, 2023. So, that's, that's a couple of years ago, a little more than 2 years ago. But he was just...
Was it like just before the major changes started coming out?
Yeah, it was right before. Now, for example, everything I mentioned here, now there wasn't much of a change back prior. Now, he was let go in February of 2023. In January of 2023, they made a very brief announcement. There was no big fanfare, and that was when they picked two new governing body members, Gage Flegel and Jeffrey Winder. Now, then on February 22nd, 2023, they made an announcement that Morris is being removed from the governing body. But then all of a sudden, in rapid fire sequence, they let the dust settle a little bit. And then in October, at the annual meeting, they reported that the hours spent in the preaching work no longer had to be recorded. And then in December of 23, they came out with beards are now reported. So this is all coming out basically in the same year that Morris left. I'm trying to connect dots here. I'm trying to pick up some crumbs on the trail. I don't know if it's going anywhere, but I'm thinking also in 2023, beards in December. And then, of course, in March 24, no longer you had to wear ties, and women could wear slacks. So, and then they kept upping the ante. But I think one of the biggest changes here, I got to go back to October 5th, 2024. That's the annual meeting where two new governing body members came into play. One of them was Jacob Rump, and the other one was Jody Jadell. That guy, something not right. He doesn't pass the smell test. He doesn't. I don't see why they had to have a big financial guy that all of a sudden is claiming he's anointed. Because to be on the governing body, you have to be anointed. That's surprising to me. Surprising. So all these changes came after.
With him,
Yeah.
With him, I did see the tape that you showed, and for me, he did. When I say for me, who am I? But from what I've seen, that the people who they use as governing body members, I thought, maybe there's something that we're missing. And so I went searching for videos about him, and even, younger videos, it's the same guy. It's exactly the way you presented him. And
yeah.
I don't understand it. And I remember mentioning it to an active witness, questioning it, and this person is a PE. And they said there were several people who were surprised to see the person who was new on the governing body.
Well, thank you for sharing. I just want to bring up one more thing. I was in error. I am going to correct myself. That man that played Jesus, it wasn't him. It was a man who actually played Satan. I had that somewhat mixed up. The man who played Satan in the Jesus movie, they're now saying he's possessed. So, I mean, that's what's coming across the boards here at our company. All right. So go. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Steve. You know, and listening to everybody's comments, you know, they say that all these things don't make sense. I think the reason that they don't make sense to people is because they're looking at this organization as a religious organization. If you look at this organization as a corporation, a cult, and everything but a religion, everything they're doing is correct. If this organization has allegedly $50 billion or $54 billion worldwide, they are a successful organization. And everybody's confused because they look at them as a religion, and people constantly quote the Bible, and they constantly say, well, Jesus wouldn't do this. They quote the society's own material, which is all a bunch of lies, and used to mislead and misrepresent its people. And it's never going to make any sense until you solely look at this organization as a cult and as a business. Forget about the religious part. It's only the storefront. That's just for entertainment purposes only, and to hide behind. They have investments in real estate, investments in all sorts of other things you have to know about. As a corporation, they're successful and they're doing it right. But I don't know. I still don't understand, and listen to your show a lot, why people use the Bible, they use society's own material, and say they don't do this right, they don't do that right. This article said this, that article said that. That's not what they really are. That information is people who have become witnesses, who have gotten captured by the cult. That's used to steer and to motivate them. Everybody on your show that listens should understand what they're looking at and what they're dealing with, but they still treat it like an accountable religion and accountable to Jehovah and the Bible. That's why things don't make sense.
Well, that's a good analogy, Steve. Yeah, that's right. It's very hard. I've always said, how do you make sense out of nonsense? But you know, you just can't do it. You can't do it with the Watchtower. Well, thank you, Steve. Good to hear from you. Haven't heard from you. Yes, go ahead.
You know, I was just going to say that, you know, it is a corporation for sure. And the thing is that Dan heard from his uncle, who's been in the witnesses for, I don't know, 60 years or something, high up in there. And he said absolutely that the reason that they let Tony Marth go is because he had a drunken incident, wrecked that car, and then right after that, they got rid of him. It's almost like they were looking for an excuse, you know what I mean? So that they could carry on to do the things in the corporation that they want to do without his scrutiny, and that they just used it as an excuse to get him out. So, but that was the truth about it.
You just now say he wrecked the car?
Yeah, that's what we were told by his uncle.
Because of drinking?
Yes, because of drinking. And he said that was the reason that the accident happened, was because he was drunk, and so that they just quietly got him out.
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah, just
that'll get you well.
Yeah, it was just a good excuse, a good time. You know, it's humiliating, it's embarrassing, and it's a good, perfect time to get him off the governing body. You know, perfect time. So anyway.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Car from drinking, that'll get you.
Well, we've heard that. In fact, thank you, Angela, for sharing that with us. Do we go? Let's go to 602. Let's go to Arizona. Yeah, go ahead, Gilbert.
Yeah, he Rick. So let me just. This is an odd theory on what's happening with the toasting and the lights. And I just put it on the chat. In 1990s, there was a senator who wrote an article about defining deviancy down. Rush Limbaugh would always say that. And so what it is it's a political move that we see all of us are eyewitnesses to it. Because we can go to California and there's people peeing on the street, homelessness. But we go to another country and it's not tolerated. And what happens is governments, Hollywood and other people, what they do is they define deviancy down. They purposely keep making everything like allowing this, lowering the standards. And instead of elevating the standards like our parents and our grandparents would have and make a better society, they're actually lowering it down. So when you use that type of thinking with Watchtower, they are defining deviancy down, which means they are trying to go and make their members the dumbest religious people that have walked on planet Earth. For you to be a Bible scholar and read the Bible and then listen to that speech, it's kind of like one of those Adam Sandler movies that Justin and I always show where Adam Sandler starts talking and then the guy says, "That is one of the most stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. Everyone here is 10% dumber for having listened to your rant." And that's what it was. That what you heard with Stephen Lett is every Jehovah's Witness and every apostate is 10% dumber for having listened to Stephen Lett speak. But by design, they are defining deviancy down. They are lowering the standards. They're not elevating the human race. You see, they're like the blue cities in the United States that allow for species and to roam the streets. They allow people to sleep on the corners and graffiti their buildings. They allow it because they're defining deviancy down. It's an insidious political move that they know what they're doing. Instead of elevating the human spirit and saying we're not going to tolerate this and making the standards for everybody better, they go the other direction. And that's what Watchtower is doing. They don't want you talking about Jesus Christ. They don't want you talking about the kingdom. They don't want you talking about the beautiful things of the Bible. They want to define deviancy down. They want to make you stupider, dumber by every JW article you read. That's only one paragraph long. And every governing body update that you hear, it does make you 10% dumber. Well, what do you think about that? Am I wrong? Or?
Oh, no.
That's about right to me, Gilbert.
Yeah, it's called defining deviancy down. It's a tactic that's used. If you can get the people dumb enough, then before they know it, they won't even know that they're slaves.
I'll give you an example that goes the other way.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a Buddhist, and neither are you. But the Dalai Lama just had a 90th birthday, and Richard Gere spoke to his star students who are going to go to different parts of the world to continue their studies. He lost his country, but he saved the folk ways of his people, the music of his people, the religion of his people, and they all strive for excellence. And they're a small group that has improved in every way. So when I saw that, I thought, Watchtower Bible and Tract has countries. They have branches in countries, and they could be a small group that strives for excellence too. But as you mentioned, that's not what they're doing for their people.
No. And she, you know what, Rick, she hit it the nail on the head like when Pixie mentioned about the music. Even the music of the Jehovah's Witness has become more stupid. And I didn't say stupider because I don't think stupider is a word, right? More
Stupid-esque.
Stupid-esque, exactly. So they on purpose are going down this direction. They know what they're doing, and they are dumbing everybody down for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know what the end game is.
It could have been an experiment to go the other way. Could have been some of the most. They could have taken people from uneducated families and educated them. They could have made a club of excellence around the world.
Correct. And somebody in the chat section put Dumb and Dumber, and it is true. The Jehovah's Witnesses are the Dumb and Dumber of the whole Christian, modern era. There is they are the Dumb and Dumber. I don't know who the other religion would be, but we were definitely Dumb and Dumber of the whole Christianity movement.
Hey, let's go to John. Let's go to John out there in Michigan. Go ahead, John. You're on with us.
Hello, Rick.
Hello, John.
I was watching a very interesting video this week. I cannot recall the young man, but he gave a very good video. He was reading from a sister on the website, JW Talk, where a lot of witnesses go and exchange ideas and so forth. And this sister was a very, very strong witness. She's a pioneer, and she cannot get anyone to go on field service net. When she goes to the service meeting, they get together in groups. She said at one time there were like 10 of them getting together, going on field service. But then it went down to 3 or 4. Now it's just her. And she's having a hard time getting someone to go on field service with. And she's one of those very strong witnesses. And so she's really having a really difficult time. Matter of fact, she went to the service overseer, told him about it, and he told her not to worry about it. It's really not important. So, matter of fact, this sister, he indicated that 8 carts in a garage. She was assigned to hold on to them. And so she has 8 carts in a garage, but she has no one to go out and field service. And this, this young man made a very good point. I thought that when he was a witness, he indicated in the 1990s that, there was a very strong organization, took it very seriously, of course. I know in you and I time in the 1960s and 70s, they took it very, very seriously. Going on field service, very strong witnesses. And now it's become the opposite. So when he indicated, and I agree with him, that eventually what's going to happen is that the strong witnesses are going to leave, and the only ones going to be left are the weak ones who are not taking religious service anymore. And I thought that was a very good point, because they're just not taking it seriously. No one is showing up for field service. The sister indicated she doesn't drive. She has to take public transit. So she's out there by herself trying to pioneer. So I think he's onto something. I think he made a very valid point that the strong witnesses are going to leave eventually. They're just not taking it seriously. And eventually it's going to become an online religion when you have a lot of weak witnesses not going on field service. And I think that's a valid point in my opinion.
Was a very valid point. It's a very valid point, John. No, there's something that's not right. Everyone can see it. Even those that are actively engaged in the witness movement, they're seeing something is not right. John, it's always good to hear from you. Thank you for checking in with us tonight. Okay, go ahead. I believe we have Anonymous on with us. You want to say something? Go ahead. All right. Well, what's fascinating to me, friends, I got a number of Facebook groups that I moderate. In fact, the 6 Queens of the Watchtower, you might want to join that as a Facebook group. We have 2,500 members in there. You might want to join that. But what got me thinking, I'm also the moderator of the Canadian Jehovah's Witness group. And that group, I wanted to bring this up last week. People are leaving the Jehovah's Witness religion in Canada like I can't believe. For friends, I have to tell you, you have to extract intelligence. And when I see all of these people that want to join the Canadian group, a Canadian ex-witness group, it's unbelievable. Every day, sometimes 8-10 people a day want to join that group. I really want to know what's going on in Canada. People are leaving like crazy. But also here, people are just leaving this organization. They're up to their ears with it. There's many couples and many people are PMOs. We've estimated it could be as much as 4 million PMOs. People are just going through the motions because they don't believe all the stuff the Watchtower is coming out with. Well, I want to tell you, in fact, we do have, you see the sign? Yes, go ahead. You're on with us.
Oh, hi, Brother Simon. It's Kim from New Jersey.
Yes, Kim.
Now, I heard about this toast now, even the Olaf toast. I never knew there were not Olaf toast. I never knew that. I never even heard of that. Now, what's wrong with toasting?
So you're talking about the toasting. So you never heard of that being a witness?
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with it? Well, originally they thought it was coming from pagan origin, but now they changed the rules. So now you can toast, Kim. How's that?
I never knew that. I never knew that for toast. I used to toast or you know, like the guy was saying, you know, somebody got a promotion one time and we did toast. I didn't know that, and I was a witness. I never knew that.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things. I'll tell you that a lot of us, some things I still hear on this program sometimes on Saturday night. I never heard either. But yeah, no toasting. We couldn't toast. It was a very awkward thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I bet, you know, I bet they're going to allow birthday celebration someday. I just hope I live to see it. I mean, I'm 44. I don't know how much longer I have. I hope I live long enough to see being celebrating birthdays. I bet you someday they're going to allow it.
Well, just slow down a little bit now. I know you get that Jamaican accent, so just go nice and slow. I didn't get the last thing you said. Yeah. You guys talk fast.
They will allow birthday celebrations on this. I bet you they will.
Oh, they'll allow birthdays from this. Is that what you said?
Yeah, like they will allow birthday celebrations on this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're just going to open up the gates of, you know, everything's going to be okay. And, you know, some of the things I'm getting, I got some information from a person today that gave me this. I guess it's his mother or someone that's a real PME, someone that's really, really in the organization, really loyal. And so, you know, he asked whoever the person was that was a loyal witness, what they thought about this change on toasting. So they're always going to come up with some stupid answer. So she basically, she said that, well, you know, this basically is how it's always been in Jehovah's organization. It's really up to the person to decide. But let me just finish this.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me just finish what I'm saying, and I'll get right to you. So the PME was saying that, you know, this has always been the case. There's been a lot of things that, you know, you had to use your own conscience with, and some brothers and sisters took it too far. That's not always the way it was. You could be reprimanded. Now, I never heard of someone being disfellowshipped for toasting, but there was a person that I did know. There is a person I knew that was put on public reproof because of toasting. So, I mean, it was serious. It was serious. Go ahead, sister. Do you want to speak up? Go ahead, sister.
Yeah, this is okay.
Yeah, good.
So what you said earlier on with what's going on in Canada, how there are a lot of people a lot of witnesses who are leaving. That is true, and I can tell you that the congregation that I used to associate with, at the time of COVID, now COVID was in 2020, around that time. From 2020 to 2 months ago, the congregation has taken on 2 other congregations. So in other words, they combined it once, they combined it a second time with another congregation, and this is the 3rd time that another congregation is combined with this congregation. And why is that? Well, because when they look at the attendance, even when they count persons who are attending the meetings on Zoom, it still doesn't add up to quite a number of publishers in these previous congregations. When they look at the numbers of persons attending the meeting, sometimes they would have just 10 people at the meeting. I heard in the latest congregation that combined with this current congregation, 5 persons were attending in-person meeting, and on Zoom, it would be lower than 20. So that alone tells you that the witnesses in Canada they are leaving. A lot of them are leaving quietly, just leaving, and a lot of them are sending me their letters saying they want to be a part of this organization. So what you heard about what's going on in Canada, it is true. Very recently in the Ontario region, especially in Toronto, they are renovating the assembly hall, but there have been talks that they might be selling the assembly hall. There are talks. I don't know if it's just gossip, but from what I've heard from other witnesses, that is what is in the works. So they are renovating it, and then very soon they might be selling it. And why? Because people are leaving. That's all I got to say.
Well, thank you, sister. Thank you very much for bringing that up, because I've been scratching my head here for the last month with all these people that are joining the Canadian Facebook group of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And boy, the numbers have been unreal. But thank you for sharing that with us. And that just shows me now that that's for sure what's happening. Thank you. So anyways, someone else want to say something before we move on?
No, I just said that's huge. And you know who probably is having mental problems because of that? Elders. Because when the congregation looks like it's weak, they say the elders are not shepherding enough. They're not doing their job or something. It can get to you.
Well, it can get to you. Well, thank you, Zach. But I want to bring up here, then we'll get to we're going to get to our game of trivia tonight. We'll play that, see if you guys can't win some prizes here. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. But I want to bring up the convention. I got to talk about that a little bit. You see behind me, you see the sign, Still Alive in 2025. We've got a lot of people coming, and really do. And I want to thank all those people that are going to be able to come up here. But I wanted to let you be aware of the fact that there is, and I told you this many times on here before, we've been really promoting this convention for a year and a half. And I have to tell you, we have got a lot of people. We've got, it looks like at this point there's going to be 300. It could go higher than that. It could go higher than that. It could be upwards of 500. I don't know for sure, but we got people writing me. In fact, as I'm speaking, I have people writing in because they see it on the bottom of the screen. So what I'm thinking here, I just want to give a little update for those people that are coming. Now, there is a motion picture, a film, a documentary on the Jehovah's Witnesses. And from what I understand, this is going to be one really well done. There's a Spanish filming crew coming from Spain. They're coming to our convention. They're going to be there a few days early. They're going to be taking shots of the convention, the props, and what we got going there. So there will be a convention. There will be a movie of the convention, and there's a plot to the whole thing as well. And, as we go into what's going to happen in the next few weeks, we'll let you know what that plot is. But I just wanted to mention those that are coming. And I've been told this by the movie crew to let the people know that if you come and you don't want to be in the film. Now, a lot of people, they say, no, Rick, I don't want to be in the film. If my relatives see me, I'll be in trouble. I've got masks. I got a bunch of masks that I've got. We'll have masks there. But what's going to happen if you're sitting in the audience? We do have a neon sign, very similar to the one you see behind me here. We have that's going to flash on the air live. So you're going to have 2 minutes. So if you're sitting in the auditorium and you see the neon sign flash on the air live, you're going to have 2 minutes to get up and leave because the film crew will start filming. So we're trying to come up with an arrangement for that because we know so many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't want to be seen. So we're trying to work out provisions for that. So just bear that in mind if you're coming, and we'll announce it at the convention as well. And also I wanted to bring up some other things. We're looking for talent. On Saturday night, we have a segment that's called Apostates Got Talent. So if you're a musician, a comedian, anyone that does a talent, now you don't have to be there in person, we can bring you on virtually. So if you believe you're a good singer, if you believe you're a good dancer, and you feel like you'd like to display your talent on our Apostates Got Talent segment on Saturday night at the convention, by all means, write me at JW World News gmail.com. And we'll get you, I'll bring you on. Maybe have a video clip of what you do. We'll bring you on and we'll see what you can do, okay? So I want you to be aware of that. And I want people to know, too, that we are going to live stream the entire convention. Now, I don't even know if we're going to pause for intermission. We might go all the way through, but there might be some pausing. I'm not quite sure yet. But what I wanted to say is during intermission, what I'd like to do is I would like to have some people, because we're going to have way more people online listening in through the streaming than we're going to have at the convention. I'm estimating we could have anywhere from 2 to 5 to 10,000 people online at the same time, because this is a history-making moment. This is a history-making moment. This will be the largest gathering of former Jehovah's Witnesses ever in the history of the ex-witness movement. So a lot of ex-witnesses will want to tune in. So we will live stream it all. And if you have a story, if you would like to tell the audience in online your story, well, come on during our intermission from the convention, and you'll be able to do that. So write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, and we'll get a clip of you telling your story, or maybe you want to do it live. So bear that in mind. And also I wanted to say for the first day of the convention, which is Friday morning at 9:30. Well, actually we have music start at 9. We have live music. So that's going to be very fascinating. So at 9:30, our program starts Friday morning. And what we have Friday morning is we have a meet and greet session. And we have, if we're going to get the kind of people what we feel we're getting, we're going to have about 2.5 hours to have everyone tell their story, but we won't have enough time. I mean, if everyone just takes 5-10 minutes, there won't be enough time for everybody. So what I'm asking people to do, if they're going to come to the convention and they really would like to get their word in, they like to have their little time to tell the world what they think and why they came to the convention, I want you to go to the information desk. When you come into the hotel, go to the information desk and see Susan Farron, that's my wife, and she will give you all the information you need to sign up to speak. So you'll be the first speakers. Then if we have time afterwards, then anyone can speak at random. But if you really feel you want to speak up for 5 to 10 minutes, see Susan, and she'll give you a registration slip that we'll fill out, and we'll bring you on stage if you want, and you can tell us your story of being in the witnesses and why you came to the convention. So that would be good. But we're looking forward to it. It's going to be quite the time. And like I say, if you can't make it, a lot of people, it's sad. Everything is so darn expensive, friends. And but the tickets are free. And if anybody out there is listening to this broadcast and you'd like to come to the convention, it's up here in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. And I'll send you, if you're scrolling across the screen right now, if you get on 6 screens of the watchtower.com, it'll give you a little overview of the convention. But if you write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, I'll send you a whole schedule. I'll send you a whole lot of information about it, where you can stay, the restaurants in the area, but you will not be disappointed. So many people are coming from Europe. They're coming from pretty much all over the world to be part of the convention. So we want to thank them all for doing that. So write me and get your tickets. The tickets are free. The tickets are free. So by all means, write me. All right, let's play our little trivia game. And I want to thank Jim Hill once again, Nathan Nadas from JWN. I have books to give away. Now, for each question that you answer in the trivia game, you get a point. And when you get 5 points and you accumulate them over the weeks, if you get 5 points, you get a book. Like, how about this one right here? Captors of a Concept by Don Cameron. Well, that's a good book. How about this one? Well, we've all heard of this one. That's Millions Now Living Will Never Die. You have an opportunity to get this book. Now, this is Jim Hill, like I say, gave us these books to give to you. He wants you to have these books. And this is an exact replica, Everything that was in the original Millions Now Living is in this one. So I want you to be aware of that. There's more books here as well. And if you do win, we'll go over them for you. But did 517 want to say something before we get into the trivia game? 517? Okay, I guess they're just getting ready. Excuse me. Let me just grab a glass of water here. I get very hoarse here. Let me just get some water. I moved recently. There's a lot of pine trees around my house, and I'm wondering if that's giving me some type of an allergy because my throat gets very hoarse. So excuse me for that. I need a drink of water. Okay. All right. So here's what we do. We're going to ask you a question. You're on the honor system. You have to keep your own score. So what we're going to do is ask you a question, and then what you'll do is don't answer until I say go. We won't do the Jeopardy music tonight, but don't answer until I say go. So I'll ask the question, and then when I say go, I want you in the audience to pick a number at random. Number 6, number 8, number 10, and then call that in because I have so many people playing this game. It's like mumble jumble. I don't know who's talking. So I can hear the number, at least I can pick somebody. So don't call a number until I say go. So let's get in. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got for trivia questions tonight. And we'll see if we can't get you guys to answer some of these questions. All right. Let me go over here. Okay, I had all the questions, but where'd they go? Hold on 1 second. Just give me a second. Okay, I had a bunch of questions here, but this stuff disappears like crazy. But just give me a second here and we'll get it. Just give me 1 second. But I'm glad you're with us tonight. Boy, we've been having a really good time tonight. It's been very good. And I feel that as we go on, we're going to hear more and more stories like we just heard about what was going on with Stephen Lett and announcing people can now toast. So that's something else. All right. So let's go with this. In fact, I had a bunch of questions here, but I can kind of just remember some of the ones I had. All right. If someone could just do this. We've asked some of these questions before. And let me just do this, if you don't mind, while I'm here right now. Okay, let's go right here. All right, let's go with, well, these are easy questions. I'm going to start off kind of easy tonight, but don't answer until I ask the question and then until you hear me say go. So the first question tonight is, this is very easy. What is the abbreviation for circuit overseer? Go.
Coach, 10.
1.
I think I heard 10.
1.
I think I heard 10.
I heard 2.
I heard 2 as well.
Did you? Was it? Well, okay. Okay. If you guys heard 2, I mean, I got a lot of things going here. We got computers and signs. So let's go with 2. Who's 2? Who's number 2?
Okay, it's Go Faith.
Okay. All right. Number 2.
So it's Theo.
See, you got it. Take a point.
Theo.
How many points you got now, Grow Faith?
Thank you.
How many points you got?
I think I have 8.
All right. Well,
I have 8.
All right. Well, you got some books coming too. Forgive me for not getting them out. I just remembered that.
Yeah. So Rick. Yeah. So once you send the books, then I'm down to 3 points. That'd be great.
Okay.
I don't want the cash. I want the book.
I'm gonna get you the books. I got some nice books. You like that Millions Now Living book? Would you like?
Yeah, I would like that one, and I would like Captive Over Conscience.
All right, I'll get those off to you. Thank you for being a patient lady, Grow Faith.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right.
No problem.
All right, good.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's go with this. A wayward witness was, if they weren't disfellowshipped, they were put on what? Go.
10.
1.
10.
I heard 7. Who said 7? Did someone say 7? Well, I think then I heard 1. I got
10.
I think 10. I think 10 was in there. Yes. I think that's Nadine. I think that's Nadine.
Yes, it is.
The former super
Are
champion.
you looking for?
So what?
Yes.
Okay, so if
Okay,
you did something wrong, and you weren't disfellowshipped, what do they do to you, Nadine?
Public reproof.
You got it. Take a point. How many points you got now?
I think that's 4 now.
4?
One.
Well, we're hoping you can. I know you're going to come to the convention, so we're hoping get you some cash to come. It'll be good. So I'm glad you're winning. You get at least getting some points. 1, do you want to speak up, Zach? 1, go ahead.
There's another name too. Yeah, there's another name they used to use.
What was
there's
before
there's another name.
it was called probation.
probation? What year were you born?
Yeah.
I never heard
I
that.
know about private reproof. I know about private reproof.
No, probation it used to be.
It was.
It's fellowshipping, then it's public reproof, and then it's
Private reproof.
Yeah, and then,
how
Okay, a little history here. Before it used to be disfellowshipping and probation. And
never heard of probation ever.
I haven't. And then they said no one is doing the truth on a probationary basis, so they changed it from probation to reproof, because they used the scripture, reprove before all onlookers those who practice sin. Now, if you think disfellowshipping is a rough thing, an elder told me what probation used to be like before they had elders and they only had the committee, which was made up of the congregation servant, the assistant congregation servant, and the Bible study servant. It was for 1 year. And the person who was on probation had to meet with the committee every month for that year. And the brothers said that they would say, you missed a meeting here, you missed something here, you missed something there. Why was that? This was a puny brother who was just telling me how difficult it used to be for people who got in trouble. So probation it used to be. Do I get a point, Rick?
Well, actually, I don't have that here, but I believe you. But well, I suppose if that's, and I go with that. I kind of bring you back memory. So we'll give you a point, Zach. We're going to be a good sport here tonight. We'll give you a point.
Thank you.
All right. So now let's go to another one. This time it's.
I wouldn't make it up, and I wouldn't lie.
I know you wouldn't. You're an honest man. You're an honest man. So here we go with this. Okay, so don't answer it until I say go. I'm going to give you a question. What is? Well, let's don't forget that one. Let's go with this. Okay, what is the Watchtower abbreviation JC? What does that mean? JC. Go.
Oh.
2. Go ahead. 2. Who's this?
This is Group A. Is it Judicial Committee?
Okay. What is it?
Judicial Committee.
I think there's that French accent. That's a French accent that's getting, I can't quite.
No. Okay, I'm going to say it again. So is it Judicial Committee?
Yeah, it's Judicial Committee. Do you have a French girl, Faith? Do you have a French accent? No.
A bit.
Are you from Quebec?
No.
Are you from Quebec?
No, I'm not from Quebec. I'm from Ontario.
Oh, okay. All right.
Quebec what?
It's
Judicial Committee.
Yeah, Judicial Committee. All right, good. So take a point for that. All right, let's go with this one. All right.
Thank you.
This is so easy. Even Zach can get this one. Okay. Here we go. Here's the question. What season in the year are most regional conventions held? Go. 1. Go ahead. That's you, Zach.
They're held in the summer.
In the summer. You got it. I mean, that's it. That was very easy, right? Was that you, Dallas? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's in the summer. It's such as that pure wickedness convention or that pure evil convention.
You're a hot duck, Dallas. But I'll tell you, why don't you stay on here with us for a second? I'm just going to give Dallas a question. Let's let Dallas win. Dallas tries really hard. Right? I want him to win. I want to get a point there. So Dallas, this is just for you. I'm going to give you this question. What city in the United States was Charles Taze Russell from?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, you got it, Dallas. You know what I'm going to do, Dallas? I'm going to give you a book. All right. I'm gonna fast forward you to 5 points because you try so hard. I'm going to give you a book. You like the Millions Now book? You like Captives of Concept? What do you like? I have.
Thank you.
Well, you have to send me your address. So send me your address. Send it to jwworldnews@gmail.com. Say, this is Dallas. This is my address. I'll send you a book. Thank you, Dallas. And Grow Faith, that's for you too.
All right.
And Grow Faith too. Send me your address again, Grow Faith. Make sure I have it. Okay, so, all right, good. Well, that was good. I want to see Dallas get a point. I want to see everybody. I love winners. I love winners. I don't like people losing. I want to see people win. All right. All right. So anyways, I got this one for you. 2 public speaking subjects a Jehovah's Witness would be counseled on in the theocratic school. Go.
One.
There was someone before you, Zach. I don't know who that was. It was a man.
I had 3. Oh, yeah, you said 3.
Was it 3? Is that you, Grow Faith?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you are just.
No, it's not me.
It's not you. Who is this? You don't
No.
You don't have to say it's okay. So anyways, name 2 subjects that was in the theocratic ministry school and you could get counseled on them. Just give me 2.
3.
They said 3 again.
Okay, 3. Go ahead. 2 subjects.
Warmth and feeling and use of gestures.
Oh, that's Apostle Babe. All right, gestures is one. What was the other one, Apostle Babe? Well, she said. You sound just like Apostle Babe. Who is this? You don't have to answer. But gestures, and what was the other thing you said?
Charlotte.
I can't quite.
Feeling.
I can't get what you're saying. Go nice and slow.
Warmth.
Yeah, warmth. You got it. Yeah. Did you have to work on that, sister? And gestures. Yeah. I used to be the ministry.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I used to be the ministry school teacher myself at one point. Yeah, I used to like that. I did. I think that was nice, the ministry school. All right, let's go with this. All right. Let's go that is so easy. I mean, these questions are so easy. It's ridiculous. All right, let's take a look at something else here. All right. We all know the Revelation book was red. But what famous subliminal picture appeared in the Revelation book? Can someone tell me the most? In fact, I'll tell you what. It had the picture of a god in the hand. What famous picture? Can you tell me about that picture? Go.
Go. 1.
2.
Boy, I'll tell you, Jack, you're getting competition.
I said 1.
Yeah, you said 1, but I think Grow Faith beat you. Boy, Jack, you're slipping here, Grow.
Yeah, I did.
What was your number, Grow Faith? I don't think so, but go right ahead.
I said 2. I said 2. But I may be wrong. Zach, I may be wrong. You can get it. I may be wrong, but I'm going to take a try.
Go ahead.
I think it may be the picture where Jesus was talking on the Mount of Olives with his apostles. And I think when you, adjust that picture,
it wasn't that one. It wasn't that one, but thank you. Go ahead, Zach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Zach.
The famous Okay, the thing is, the picture that you're talking about is one where the angel opened up his hand and there was a face of a god. They say it's named Pan.
You got it.
The witnesses didn't say that, but
I didn't know that you were into subliminal pictures, Zach. Boy, that's good. That's good. Excellent. Good job.
Take a point, Zach. Take a point.
Yeah, take your point. He's done good. Yeah. All right.
I told you would get it.
well, I think it was the same question that was asked about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Now, Zach probably knows this one, but maybe you guys know it too. The New World Translation of the Christian Greek Scriptures was released at a convention of Jehovah's Witnesses at Yankee Stadium, New York, on August 2nd, 1950. The translation of the Old Testament, which Jehovah's Witnesses refer to as the Hebrew Scriptures, was released in 5 volumes in 1953, 1955, 1957, 1958, and 1960. What color were these first 5 volumes? Go.
1.
I heard Zach first. Go ahead, Zach.
Green.
They were green. And then, of course, we had the original volume in green, too. Now, that's good you got that, Zach. Maybe some of the newer ones. The other person was going to comment. Did you know it was green?
I knew it was green. Red.
Oh, you did? Okay, Nadine. Yeah, that's interesting. I got them all, in fact. I'll tell you what, you guys out there, if you ever have an opportunity, you're in an old bookstore and you see some of those, grab them because they're worth some money online. So hold on to those first 5 volumes. See, they didn't print it all at once. They came out with them in little volumes. They came out with the Old Testament, of course, first, and then the New Testament. So I just said that's good that you guys got that. Very, very good. All right, let's move on. Let's go to another question here. All right, let me see if we can find a good one here for you. Okay. What was the brand name of the soda that was served at circuit assemblies and district conventions? Brand name of the soda. Go.
Yeah.
1.
I heard a woman first. Was that you, Natalie? Natalie, yeah. Nadine.
Nadine, yeah. That was me. Shasta.
You got it. Take a point. Good girl. You got it. Excellent. All right. Now, here's one other, and this will be the last one for the night. Was pizza ever on the menu at a circuit or district convention? Go.
Yeah.
None.
Nadine, I think you were first. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to say yes.
It was. It really was. They did have pizza.
Okay.
I never had it, but they did have pizza.
I never did either.
Yeah.
I never had it. It might have, I don't know what year that was.
But they did have it. Some conventions actually had different food than others. I used to, in fact, I went to
Right.
I went to a district convention once up in Portland, Maine, and there was a man. In fact, he got the nickname Vinnie Burrito. He would go bonkers over the burritos. I don't think it was that great, but geez, that he was walking around. He loved the burritos. Of course, that's before Mexican food was pretty popular. Mexican food now is popular. And by the way, Nadine, I'm going to call you tomorrow with some information for you. I get some really good news for you for the convention. So I'll call you tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I wanted to tell you that at Dodger Stadium, because I used to go to Dodger Stadium for the big assembly, and they didn't have pizza.
They didn't have it. No, I don't.
They didn't have pizza there.
I don't remember it either, but they.
It might have been maybe. It might have been like maybe in New York or something. I don't know, but
Yeah, somewhere out there.
we never had pizza.
Well, thank you, Nadine, and all of you guys for playing the trivia game tonight. And I want you all to keep standing tall. I don't want you to ever give in, up, or out. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. I'll see you next week. There's no 6 Screen Sunday tomorrow. It's every other Sunday. But I'll see you next week right here with Anne Marie coming on at 6 o'clock next Saturday night. Thank you. And try to make it to the convention. If not, at least watch it online and spread the word. Let people know on Reddit and Facebook and Instagram that we're having a big convention and it's going to be all live streamed. And you are going to be unbelievably in love with some of the stories, some of the people that are coming to the convention. We have all of the speakers now. It's taken us a while to do this, but we have all the speakers taken place. We have them all in line, and we've got like 40 different people that will be speaking. And we've got people from all walks of life, from different countries, and they are going to give you stories that you will not believe. So by all means, spread the word and be with us in person if you can, but if not, at least online. Thank you very much. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Good night, everyone.
Good night.